Alright, I'm unmuted, and we're good to go. What's up, not one viewer? How's it going? Um, we're here to read...
The Book of Five Rings?
No,
Hello.
we're just here to read. Whatever we read is, not of importance. Anyway, as you might have noticed, one viewer, I'm not alone for once. I'm not gonna be showing signs of schizophrenia today. So, how about the other voice in my head introduces himself?
Hello. My name is Gaius Livingston. I'm a YouTuber with many interests. Bit of a polymath. I have interest in science and history, including the samurai period, which is what we're hoping to cover today.
Alright, good shit. So, do you know anything about the book that we're going to read today? Do you have any, anything
I've never
going
read
in?
it actually, but I am familiar with Musashi as a person. I very much enjoy the movie series about him.
Do you like the game series about him?
The Like a Dragon one I have not played.
Oh, I heard it wasn't that good.
That one's not even in English, right?
They recently released like a remake, like a whole remake in English.
Oh, okay.
Heard it was somehow worse.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, thanks RGG Studios. Very cool. Not gonna buy your New Game Plus DLC. Anyway, how about you give us some background on Mr. Musashi here?
Miyamoto Musashi was a samurai who was self-taught, and he had a special two-handed technique where he used his katana in one hand and his wakizashi in his left hand. And this technique was undefeated, and he went on to defeat famously Sasaki Kojiro and establish himself as a legendary samurai. And afterward, he wrote a book and studied Buddhism and art. This is
Wow.
all at the top of my head.
Wow, what a guy. Also, yes, Reno, I am real. How's it going, buddy? And is Musashi known as more of a warrior or a philosopher?
Well, he was more of a warrior in his early days. He became more of a philosopher in his later days.
Very cool.
Evidently, as a little fact about him, he was native to the area that is modern-day Tokyo. So when they built Tokyo Skytree, they built it at, is it 634 meters tall, I believe is the number, because it's in Japanese Musashi.
That's really cool. Also, I'm doing pretty good, Reno. How you been? Oh, your life probably.
Hello.
Oh yeah, if Reno got a new buddy here. All right. So you know nothing about this book specifically. Haven't been told anything. Haven't like read the cover. Read the. Oh, we have a cover here. Jamie, pull up the cover art. Any thoughts on this, Dr. Livingston?
Other than that, I haven't read it. That looks a lot like a Miyamoto Musashi to me, although he's not using his two-handed sword technique here.
Oh yeah, it looks like he's using some kind of pole arm here.
Yeah, that is a Nagatama, I think.
I see. And is that different from a Naginata?
I think that's the word I'm thinking of, actually.
Oh. I would not put it past the Japanese to name two different weapons that.
I'm not too experienced in pole arms. I know all the different swords, though.
Oh, yeah, we could do a whole thing on swords. I'm looking forward to that.
I'm a big fan of the Odachis, personally.
I'm more of a Zweihander kind of guy.
Well, it's a similar concept. Odachis were even bigger. They required a second person to hold the sheath as they were unsheathed.
Yeah, I'm not much of a team player when I'm swinging around a giant piece of metal.
It's more of a showpiece, really.
Sounds about right. That one image of Yamcha, yeah, that's on par for the course.
Yeah, I also like how Musashi in Fate Grand Order is just a
Oh yeah, yeah, I heard about that. It's just a total dumbass. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I enjoy even more that in Stay Night, the original assassin was actually Sasaki Kojiro. Like, imagine having the luck to summon the guy who lost famously.
That's pretty funny. Dual guitar kind of guy. Doc, what's your opinion on the dual guitars?
That's kind of funky, honestly.
Shoot, hold on. I'm the uneducated one here. Jamie, pull up the dual guitars. Oh
Halftime?
yeah, oh yeah, no, that tracks. That, yeah.
Yeah, that's a character in
With the Farino drip, yeah, that makes sense. Oops, ad
I
time.
think that's
Oh
I think
shit.
there's another Fate character who uses that as a weapon. Oh wait, that's IF's weapon in Neptunia.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. All right. So this got just good, but okay. Also, is it legal to link an ad blocker on Twitch?
It's morally correct.
All right. Listen, Farino, buddy. I'm gonna drop. I'm gonna drop. How do I? I'm just gonna. Can I copy the text here? No, I need the fancy one. Sorry, all right. Oh, I can't type in my own fucking chat. I can't type in my own fucking chat because I'm not logged in. Okay, alright, sorry, no ad block links for you guys today. Alright, well, enough putting it off. Want to start reading?
Yeah, sure. How are we distributing and reading?
I would say popcorn reading, but I don't think the class is large enough for that.
No, I remember that.
Were you any good at it?
Yeah, but I always had to listen to the dumb kids who couldn't pronounce words.
Let's just hope none of those dumb kids watch the VOD.
I'll try one of it. I'll try it for one.
Alright, do we want to read all like the forward stuff and shit? Give our...
We could probably skip the translator's notes.
Alright, let's skip the translator's list. Let's give our recognition to Thomas Cleary. As our beloved translator. 1993.
So he translates this Thomas clearly.
I was gonna wait to make that one. Alright, Massachusetts, Boston boys, where you at? Reno still here? Boston shout out. I think you're from Boston, right? Oh, sorry, not to fucking dox you on my first day back. My bad. Oh fuck! Wow, I don't know what to say about that one. Also, these are all the fucking chapters.
Yeah, they
Have a
seem
lot.
like the chapters themselves are relatively short.
Alright, translator's
Got a-
preface,
Like
introduction.
160 pages.
Yeah. I don't live there, no worries. Okay, alright, cool. Thought you were some... I don't know. I don't know why I tied you to Boston for some reason. Whoa, hold on. I just some caught my eye. Although the crudity of Bisashi's syntax and morphology make for clumsy reading, the basic simplicity and clarity makes them accessible. Alright, so dude read like a preschooler. Got it.
Yeah, he was self-taught,
Yeah.
and samurai usually had a very, proper, educated way of speaking that lower classes didn't have.
I'll be looking.
Maybe that's why he comes to. Maybe that's why he's dumb in Grand Order.
Oh, yeah. Alright, well, thanks for the lurk, Farina. Have a good one. Alright, so this isn't the start, right? Where is it start?
The start is.
It's right here.
It looks like on page 19.
Okay, yeah, alright. So are you on first or am I?
The preface is pretty short. I'll
We're not
start
re-
off with it. I'm the guest.
Alright. Go for it.
The science of martial arts, called the individual school of two skies, is something that I have spent many years refining. Now, wishing to reveal it in a book form for the first time, I have ascended to Mount Iwato in the Higo province of Kyushu. Bowing to heaven, paying respects to Kannon, I face the Buddha. I am the Shinmin Musashi no Kami, Fujiwara no Genshin, hey, Genshin Impact, the warrior born in the province of Harima, now 60 years old. I have set my mind on the science of martial arts since my youth long ago. I was 13 years old when I had my first duel. On that occasion, I won over my opponent, a martial artist named Arima Kihei of the New School of Accuracy. At 16 years of age, I beat a powerful martial artist called Akiyama of Kajima Province. When I was 21, I went to the capital city and met martial artists from all over the country. Although I engaged in numerous duels, never did I fail to attain victory. After that, I traveled from province to province, meeting martial artists of the various schools. Although I dueled more than 60 times, never once did I lose. That all took place between the time I was 13 years old and the time I was 29. When I had passed the age of 30 and reflected on my experiences, I realized that I had not been victorious because of consummate attainment of martial arts. Perhaps it was because I had an inherent skill for the science and had not deviated from natural principles. It may have been due to the shortcomings in the martial arts of other schools. In any case, I subsequently practiced day and night in order to attain an even deeper principle, and spontaneously came upon the science of martial arts. I was about 50 years old at that time. Since then, I have passed the time with no science into which to inquire, trusting in the advantage of military science. As I turn it into the science of all arts and skills, I now have no teacher in anything. Now, in composing this book, I have not borrowed the old sayings of Buddhism or Confucianism, nor do I make use of old stories from military records or books on military science. With heaven and canon for mirrors, I take up the brush and begin to write at 4 a.m. on the night of the 10th day of the 10th month, 1643.
Alright, let's stop and reflect on that one for a little bit.
It reminds me of Takumi
Which talking me?
Fujiwara from Initial D.
Oh, yeah.
I think the storytelling of Initial D, this is something I said, I thought about before. The storytelling of Initial D is very much inspired by the Musashi story. It's a self-taught person with great skill who defeats all sorts of other schools across the country and is never once defeated himself.
Yeah, I mean, like, I find it kind of weird that just second paragraph he just goes off about stacking bodies.
Well, I mean, yeah, he did.
He did, so that gives him the right to, but just like, second paragraph?
Well, he's known for being an undefeated samurai.
Yeah. I guess if I did that too, I'd flex it pretty soon.
He didn't mention Sasaki Kojiro in this at all.
In the, or I mean, I don't think he mentioned like someone by name in the. Oh wait, never mind.
Yeah, he did. He just didn't mention him. I guess it was like a literally who for him.
And maybe he gets to it later.
He probably does. That was really only first stage.
Yeah. Alright, first, let's get quick. So do you want to read, alternating, like each section of like each subtitle? Or super title?
Yeah, that's probably good here.
Alright.
Isn't that is broken up into a bunch of smaller sections you can alternate?
Yeah, alright. Okay. Part 1, the Earth Scroll. Martial arts are the warrior's way of life. Commanders in particular should practice these arts, and soldiers must also know this way of life. In the present day, there are no warriors with certain knowledge of the way of martial arts. First, let us illustrate the idea of the way of life. Buddhism is a way of helping people. Confucianism is a way of reforming culture. For the physician, healing is a way of life. A poet teaches the art of poetry. Others pursue fortune-telling, archery, or various other arts and crafts. People practice the ways in which they are inclined, developing individual preferences. Few people are fond of the martial way of life. First of all, the way of warriors means familiarity with both cultural and martial arts. Even if they are clumsy at this, individual warriors must or should strengthen their own martial arts as such as is practical in their circumstances. People usually think that all warriors think about is being ready to die. As far as the way of death is concerned, it is not limited to warriors. Medicants, women, funny that he mentioned separately, farmers, and even those below them know their duty, are ashamed to neglect it. and resign themselves to death. There is no distinction in this respect. The martial way of life practiced by warriors is based on excelling others in anything and everything. Whether by victory in an individual duel or by winning a battle of several people, one thinks of serving the interests of one's employer, of serving one's own interests, of becoming well known and socially established. This is all possible by the power of martial arts. Yet there will be people in the world who think that even if you learn martial arts, this will not prove useful when a real need arises. Regarding that concern, the true science of martial arts means practicing them in such a way that they will be useful at any time, and to teach them in such a way that they will be useful in all things.
So we're just establishing the importance of martial arts here, I think.
Yeah, any cultural reason as to why he listed women as a separate profession?
Women were a separate profession.
Is this the weird time in Japan when there were 3 genders?
No, but women were sort of did their own thing, and they were not generally people who practiced martial arts.
Or farming, or merchants, or physicians, or anything?
Yeah, kind of none of those.
Wacky times.
I think women weren't even that involved with farming at his time. Later on, they were like the primary farmers, and the men were the primary fighters.
Hmm.
But this is the age of samurai, where the villages were just their completely own thing, and the men did most of the farming in most instances.
Huh. Alright.
Alright, I'll start the next one. On the science of martial arts. In China and Japan, practitioners of this science have been referred to as masters of martial arts. Warriors should not fail to learn this science. People who make a living as martial artists these days only deal with swordsmanship. The priests of Kashima and Kantori shrines in Hitachi province have established such schools, claiming their teachings to have been transmitted from the gods, and travel around from province to province, passing them on to people. But this is actually a recent phenomenon. I don't know why I keep getting the sections with all these Japanese names thrown in. Among the arts and crafts spoken of since ancient times, the so-called art of the advantage has been included as a craft. So once we were talking about the art of the advantage, it cannot be limited to swordsmanship alone. Even swordsmanship itself can hardly be known by, considering only how to win by the art of the sword alone. Without question, it is impossible to master military science thereby. That's a sentence. As I see society, people make themselves the arts into commercial products. They think of themselves as commodities, and also make implements as items of commerce. Distinguishing the superficial and the substantial, I find this attitude has less reality than decoration. The field of martial arts is particularly rife with flamboyant swordsmanship, with commercial popularization and profiteering on the part of both those who teach science and those who study it. The result of this must be, as someone said, that amateuristic martial arts are a source of serious wounds. Generally speaking, there are 4 walks of life: the ways of the knight, the farmer, the artisan, the merchant, and the woman, apparently. First is the way of the farmer. He doesn't even really have a paragraph on women, huh?
That's brutal.
Farmers prepare all sorts of agricultural tools and spend the years constantly attending to the changes in the 4 seasons. This is the way of the farmer. Second is the way of the merchant. Those who manufacture wine obtain the various implements required and make a living from the profit they gain according to quality. Whatever the business, merchants make a living from the profits they earn according to their particular status. This is the way of the merchant. Third, in regard to the warrior knight, that path involves constructing all sorts of weapons and understanding the various properties of weapons. This is imperative for warriors. Failure to master weaponry and comprehend the specific advantages of each weapon would seem to indicate a lack of cultivation in a member of a warrior house. Fourth is the way of the artisan. In terms of the way of the carpenter, this involves skillful construction of all sorts of tools, knowing how to use each tool skillfully, drawing up plans correctly by means of the square and the ruler, making a living by diligent practice of the craft. There are 4 walks of life, of knights, farmers, artisans, and merchants. I would illustrate the science of the martial arts by likening it to the way of the carpenter. The carpenter is used as a metaphor in reference to the notion of a house. We speak of aristocratic houses, military houses, houses of the arts. We speak of a house collapsing or a house continuing, and we speak of such and such a tradition, style, or house. Since we use the expression house, therefore, I have employed the way of the master carpenter as a metaphor. The word for carpenter is written with the characters meaning great skill or master plan. Since the science of martial arts involves great skill and master planning, I am writing about it in terms of comparison with carpentry. If you want to learn the science of martial arts, meditate on this book. Let the teacher be the needle, let the student be the thread, and practice unremittingly. I actually kind of like this writing style.
Yeah.
Interestingly, how it's translated too.
How so?
The wordplay on house works in both languages, I think.
Huh. I didn't even think about it in Japanese, which I probably should have.
I'm assuming that's how it was written originally, and it hopefully managed to work nicely in English as well.
Yeah. So which walk of life do you choose?
Well, let me look at them again. Probably, I think I would be the artisan.
Hmm. That's fair enough. That kind of sounds like the sounds like the gamer path.
Yeah, and actually, carpenter isn't one of the four that he mentions.
I would say that goes into artisan. I'd say
Just-
that falls into artisan.
Yeah, but it's interesting that he mentions these four walks of life, and then he says martial arts is actually like carpentry, which isn't any of the above.
Um,
Maybe he means that it involves all four of them.
I would. That makes sense. I would think that maybe it was just like common knowledge back in the day that carpenters were artisans, so we just didn't mention that.
I mean, it is common knowledge, I guess. They are merchants as well.
Carpenters?
Yeah, they make
Well,
product.
I don't
They're
know.
not really
Maybe modern day they
farmers.
wouldn't be merchants, but back then they probably were. Yeah. Because like modern day carpenters are like just like contracted out, so they don't actually do any of the selling.
Yeah. Well, carpentry is a noble profession generally in the ancient days. Joseph was a carpenter.
Oh, yeah. I was about to just draw that parallel too.
Yeah, as was
about-
Jesus when he was young.
Yeah, I was like, it was a very interesting choice of comparison to a samurai.
Yeah. But this is either predates or is around the time that Christianity was like not allowed in Japan. So I'm sure that comparison isn't intentional.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. That's another that's another day.
Yeah, we can do a watch along in silence.
Okay, alright. That covers that one. I'm looking at here. Alright. Likening. Oh, here we go. Perfect. Likening the science of martial arts to carpentry. As the master carpenter is the overall organizer and director of the carpenters, it is the duty of the master carpenter to understand the regulations of the country, find out the regulations of the locality, and attend to the regulations of the master carpenter's own establishment. The master carpenter, knowing the measurements and designs of all sorts of structures, employs people to build houses. In this respect, the master carpenter is the same as the master warrior. When sorting out timber for building a house, that which is straight, free from knots, and of good appearance can be used for the front pillars. That which has some sort of knots but is straight and strong can be used for rear pillars. That which is somewhat weak yet has no knots and looks good is variously used for door sills, lintels, doors, and screens. That which is knotted and crooked but is nevertheless strong is used thoughtfully in consideration of the strength of the various members of the house. But then the house will last a long time. Even knotted, crooked, and weak timber can be made into scaffolding and later used for firewood. As the master carpenter directs the journeyman, he knows their various levels of skill and gives them appropriate tasks. Some are assigned to flooring, some to the doors and screens, some to the sills and lintels and ceilings, and so on. He has the unskilled set out floor joints, and gets those even less skilled to carve wedges. When the master carpenter exercises discernment in the assignment of jobs, the work progresses smoothly. Efficiency and smooth progress, prudence in all matters, recognizing true courage, recognizing different levels of morale, instilling confidence, and realizing what can and cannot be reasonably expected. Such are the matters on the mind of the master carpenter. The principle of martial arts is like this.
Very thorough.
Yeah, yeah. Really, this guy's probably built a house.
Yeah, he probably has. I just think it's interesting how he approaches everything from basic principles. That was something that he's known for as a philosopher, if that's how he approached his swordsmanship.
Yeah, it makes it very accessible,
Yeah,
as mentioned in the
Yeah.
translator's footnote.
yeah. Also, earlier, just since we're drawing parallels, um, the very first paragraph or section where he's talking about not being concerned about death, uh, he sort of reminds me of Marcus Aurelius
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
I see that.
Whereas Marcus Aurelius was very educated and drew from a lot of sources, he's drawing from purely his own thoughts.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll move on to the next section, the science of martial arts.
You have the floor.
Speaking in terms of carpentry, soldiers sharpen their own tools, make various useful implements, and keep them in their utility boxes. Receiving instructions from a master carpenter, they hew pillars and beams with adzes. I don't know that. I'm not a carpenter, clearly.
Damn.
Shave floors and shelving with planes. Even carve open work and bas relief. Again, I don't know that. Making sure the measurements are correct, they see to all the necessary tasks in an efficient manner. This is the rule for carpentry. When one has developed practical knowledge for all the skills of the craft, eventually one can become a master carpenter oneself. An essential habit for carpenters is to have sharp tools and keep them whetted. It is up to the carpenter to use these tools masterfully, even making such things as miniature shrines, bookshelves, tables, lampstands, cutting boards, and potholders. Being a soldier is like this. This should be given careful consideration or reflection. Necessary accomplishments of a carpenter are avoiding crookedness, getting joints to fit together, skillful planning, avoiding abrasion, and seeing that there is no subsequent warping. If you want to learn this science, then take everything I write to heart and think over it carefully.
So what was that one about? Was that one just... so that chapter is probably just about like awareness, right? Like consider everything when doing a thing.
Carpentry is a very elaborate set of skills, is what it basically is saying,
Okay,
as is in martial arts.
I
So
see.
this is all written as a metaphor.
Very cool, Musashi. I'm still not getting it. I'm still not going to trade school.
We're either going to learn how to strike down our enemies with swords, or we're going to learn how to build a house. Possibly both at the same time.
Based on how this is going, I would not be surprised if we learned how to build a house from this.
It's a lot like in the Karate Kid, where he says to paint the fence and wax the car.
Oh yeah.
But all those skills end up being useful.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, a lot of things on a construction site are very useful as a warrior.
Yeah, probably true. They're also generally fit people.
Yeah, that is very true. Alright. On composition of this book in 5 scrolls. Distinguishing 5 courses in order to explain their principles in individual sections, I have written this book in 5 scrolls, entitled Earth, Water, Fire, Wind, and Emptiness. Okay, quick. I know we're not at the end of the section yet, but what do you think? What's your favorite word for this emptiness? Because it can be translated as like anything.
Abyss?
Abyss. Okay, my general thought was ether.
Oh, that's
Because
kind of a different definition of emptiness.
we usually when the basic 4 elements are listed, if there's ever a 5th, it's typically ether.
Ether. Oh, that makes sense. I'm assuming he's just throwing this in separately than that. Ether's sort of the opposite of empty.
And ether is that which occupies empty space. So it's like
Yeah.
ether, chi, chakra, the force, whatever you want to put in that empty space. It's like documented quite a bit in old texts.
True. Perhaps it's different in Eastern philosophy then.
Eastern
In
philosophy
Greek
loved their ether.
Yeah, the Greeks did too, but in Greek philosophy it generally meant the sense of something. as in the. I mean, it was that carried on in philosophy all the way up until like the 20th century, until relativity, where scientists thought there was an ether that was behind the whole universe.
Are you saying there's not?
Uh, Not according to relativity, at least according to the way that the science is constructed.
Okay, well, relativity's its own stream. That'll be like a subathon or something. Because me personally, I'm not a big fan of relativity.
We can talk about the guy falling off the roof.
Which one?
Well, the one that Einstein thought of. At least it wasn't an actual guy.
Yeah, unlike the other one.
Yeah, we describe relativity while you're falling off a roof. That'll be the stream.
That'll be something. Alright, anyway, continuing. In the Earth Scroll, there is an outline of the science of martial arts, the analysis of my individual school. The true science cannot be attained just by mastery of swordsmanship alone. Knowing the small... I thought that said smell, and I was about to go on a whole different tangent. Knowing the small by
that's
way
Napoleon.
We'll get there too. By way of the great, one goes from the shallow to the deep. Because a straight path levels the contour of the earth, I will call the first one the Earth Scroll. Second is the Water Scroll. Taking water as the basic point of reference, one makes the mind fluid. Water conforms to the shape of a vessel, square or round. It can be a drop, and it can be an ocean. Water has the color of a deep pool of aquamarine. Because of the purity of water, I will write about my individual school in this scroll. When you attain certain discernment of the principles of mastering swordsmanship, then, when you can defeat one opponent at will, this is tantamount to being able to defeat everyone in the world. The spirit of overcoming others is the same even if there are thousands or tens of thousands of opponents. The military science of commanders is to construe the large scale from the small scale, like making a monumental icon from a miniature model. Such matters are impossible to write about in detail. To know myriad things by means of one thing is the principle of military science. I write about my individual school in this water scroll. Third is the fire scroll. In this scroll, I will write about battle. Fire may be large or small, and has a sense of violence. So here I write about matters of battle. The way to do battle is the same whether it is a battle between one individual and another, or a battle between one army and another. You should observe reflectively, with overall awareness of the large picture as well as precise attention to small details. The large scale is easy to see, small scale is hard to see. To be specific, it is impossible to reverse the direction of a large group of people all at once. While the small scale, it is hard to know because, in the case of an individual, there is just one will involved and changes can be made quickly. This should be given careful consideration. Because the matters in this fire scroll are things that happen in a flash, in martial arts it is essential to practice daily to attain familiarity, treating them as ordinary affairs, so the mind remains unchanged. Therefore, I write about contest in the battle of this fire scroll. Fourth is the wind scroll. The reason I call this scroll the wind scroll is that it is not about my individual school. This is where I write about the various schools of martial arts in the world. As far as using the word wind is concerned, we use this word to mean style or manner, in speaking of such things as ancient style, contemporary style, and the manners of various houses. So here I write definitively about the techniques of the various schools of martial arts in this world. This is wind. Unless you really understand others, you can hardly attain your own self-understanding. In the practice of every way of life, and every kind of work, there is a state of mind called that of the deviant. Even if you strive diligently on your chosen path day after day, if your heart is not in accord with it, then even if you think you're on a good path, from the point of view of the straight and true, this is not a genuine path. If you do not pursue a genuine path to its consummation, then a little bit of crookedness in the mind will later turn into a major warp. Reflect on this. It is no wonder that the world should consider the martial arts to consist solely of swordsmanship. As far as the principles and practices of my martial arts are concerned, this is a distinctly different matter. I write about the other schools in this wind scroll in order to make the martial arts of the world known. The fifth scroll is the emptiness scroll. The reason this scroll is entitled emptiness is that once we speak of emptiness, we can no longer define the inner depths in terms of the surface entryway. Having attained a principle, one detaches from the principle. Thus one has spontaneous independence in the science of martial arts, and naturally attains marvels, discerning the rhythm when the time comes. One strikes spontaneously and naturally scores. This is all the way of emptiness. In this emptiness scroll, I've written about spontaneous entry into the true way. Now, was it just me, or did the emptiness scroll straight up describe the Force?
Yeah, detachment.
Detachment, and one strikes spontaneously and naturally scores.
I wouldn't be surprised, actually. The Force was inspired by samurai lore.
Damn.
In fact, the term for Jedi is actually it's from Jedi Ego or something, I think. The term for a period movie. And the likes of like Kurosawa and whatever, that George Lucas was a big fan of.
Huh. Very, very interesting.
I think the different styles here, the elements almost remind me of how you have different fighting styles in Judgment.
Yeah, we're missing one. We need emptiness style.
Yeah.
We already have
style
4.
would be good. So, which element do you feel like you are?
I am big
I kinda-
emptiness.
Yeah, I'm kind of an emptiness guy myself, too.
I love emptiness. I love secret unlockable 5th styles.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm just a seeker of the void for soul.
Yeah, that tracks. Anyway. But like of the 4 tangible elements, I'd probably have to go with fire.
I have to go with wind.
Wind's definitely a second. Cause like I don't know if water makes sense, cause like water is for purity, but like by nature water gets tainted really easily.
Water's usually for fluidity, which are different things.
Yeah, he
And
mentioned
he's
it
having
for
his
fluidity.
here.
He said at the beginning, water, yeah, because it takes the shape of the vessel. But later he's like, yeah, I named it
Makes
water
it
for
purity.
purity.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Interesting. Again, in Greek philosophy, water pretty much stood in for fluidity. There's the one philosopher that said that you can never step into the same river twice. I forget his name. Because the water is never the same water. And that sort of led into atomic theory.
Oh, yeah, I can see that chain of events.
Yeah, the Greeks originally came up with the concept of the atom too.
And then what was the Earth Scroll again? Earth Scroll was... What was Earth Scroll? There's like one paragraph on it.
Yeah.
Okay, because a straight path levels the contour of the Earth. So I presume Earth is just being rooted, knowing yourself, staying true to your path.
Yeah, Earth is the path. That's the first section.
And then water is... because of the purity of water, I write my individual school in the scroll.
I think he's using them as motifs because they were common elements to work from.
Yeah. And then, fire
Because
is...
wind describes the different school, which is very unusual.
I think I get it, because wind flows everywhere. Like, winds just carry things, carried on the wind.
True, but it does feel like he's stretching. He says, as far as the word wind is concerned, I use it to mean style.
Yeah, that's... you got a little quirky
I don't know
there.
if that's a kanji pun.
It's probably a fucking... If you don't understand, it's probably a kanji pun. Fuck kanji.
Yeah.
Alright, and then we went over emptiness already, so... And then, oh yeah, and apparently this next school is just named Two Swords. Which is
Yeah, here we go.
This is about his
When
style,
we
so
get to it.
you have the floor.
Alright. On naming this individual school, Two Swords. The point of talking about Two Swords is that it is the duty of all warriors, commanders and soldiers alike, to wear two swords. In olden times, these are called tachi and katana, or the great sword and the sword. Nowadays, they are called katana and wakizashi. So, as an aside, the difference between like a tachi and a katana,
Mhm.
those are like the same size. The difference was that the tang of the sword has the marker's mark, the blacksmith's mark on a different side
Oh.
because a katana you wore with the curve facing up, and a tachi you wore with the curve facing down. So there would be a different side of the tang, which is the part underneath the handle.
Yeah.
Different part would be facing out, and it would be, of course, wrapped with leather or cloth. And you just apparently could tell which one was which based on the fact that the mark was hidden underneath the handle, and you couldn't call them the wrong thing or you'd get in trouble for it.
That sounds pretty Japanese, not gonna lie.
Oh, it's so Japanese, yeah. And then you had rules about you were allowed to take katana inside, but the tachi had to stay outside. Yeah.
What the? That's crazy.
Japan.
Japan moment.
Yeah, and then later the katana was worn with the curve facing up, which is opposite, because it was worn. Originally, they were worn with armor, and by the later period, they were worn in the Edo period. They were worn with kimonos, and you would just stick the katana into obi, and the curve would face up.
I always wondered
And
how
the
that
waka-
stayed.
How that stayed?
Yeah, like did they hold it or did it just like did they tie it like a belt or?
I don't actually know. I think it was just friction.
Huh. And
At
isn't
least that's how it is in the movies.
yeah, and then isn't wakizashi worn on the back?
That's worn like inside the robe or on the other side. That's the almost like a dagger, but it's
Yeah.
still curved because they couldn't figure out any other way to make swords.
Yeah.
I mean, Japanese materials were really poor materials to work with for making weaponry. They had to acquire iron from sand, and they made bows out of bamboo, and bamboo is not very flexible, so the Yumi bows are like 3 meters tall
Yeah.
because otherwise they'd snap.
Yeah. Is it that's probably why they jumped on guns as soon as they could?
They did, and then the Tokugawa shogunate. I mean, everybody did, but then the Tokugawa shogunate, heavily controlled them.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, back to the
Yeah.
the story here. The sword and the sidearm. There's no need for the detailed discussion of the business of warriors wearing these two swords. In Japan, the way of warriors is to wear them at their sides, whether they know anything about them or not. It is in order to convey the advantages of these two that I call my school two swords in one. As for the spear, the halberd, and so on, they are considered extra accoutrements. They are among the tools of the warrior. For beginners in my school, the real thing is to practice the science wielding both swords, the long sword in one hand and the short sword in the other. When your life is on the line, you want to make use of all your tools. No warrior should be willing to die with his swords at his side without having made use of both of his tools. However, when you hold something with both hands, you cannot wield it freely both right and left. My purpose is to get you used to wielding the long sword with one hand. Wait. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
'Cause
right.
this is a substandard. Like, this is not the typical technique.
Yeah, that's why he won.
Yeah. And in fact, anecdotally, the story goes that he beat Sasaki Tochiro with swords, with dummy swords that he carved out of wood for the purpose of the battle because he didn't intend to kill him.
Huh.
But he did kind of anyway. But like in the movie, I think he slashes his sword back into him,
Oh,
like it ricochets off and then he ends up killing himself. Sort of.
damn.
With large weapons, the spear and the halberd, there is no choice. But the long and short swords are both weapons that can be held in one hand. The trouble with wielding a long sword with both hands is that it is no good on horseback, no good when running hurriedly, no good on marshy ground, muddy fields, stone lanes, steep roads, or crowded places. When you have a bow or spear in your left hand, or whatever other weapons you are wielding, in any case you use the long sword with one hand. Therefore, to wield the long sword with both hands is not the true way. When it is impossible to strike a killing blow using just one hand, then use two hands to do it. It should not require effort. Two swords is a way to learn to wield the long sword in one hand. Its purpose is to first accustom people to wielding the long sword in one hand. The long sword seems heavy and unwieldy to everyone at first, but it is something but everything is like that when you first take it up. A bow is hard to draw, a halberd is hard to swing. In any case, when you become accustomed to each weapon, you become stronger at the bow, and you acquire the ability to wield the longsword. So when you attain the power of the way, it becomes easy to handle. To swing the longsword with great velocity is not the right way, as will be made clear in the second section, the water scroll. The longsword is to be wielded in spacious places, the short sword in confined spaces. This is the basic idea of the way to begin with. In my school, one can win with the longsword, and one can win with the short sword as well. For this reason, the precise size of the longsword is not fixed. The way of my school is the spirit of gaining victory by any means. It is better to wield two swords than one longsword when you are battling a mob all by yourself. It is also advantageous when taking prisoners. Matters such as this need not be written out in exhaustive detail. Myriad things are to be inferred from each point. When you have mastered the practice of the science of martial arts, there will be nothing you do not see. This should be given careful and thorough reflection. I think he ends every section.
I love how
way.
often he says reflect on this or something similar.
Yeah,
He's just
Yeah,
always like
this is-
reflect.
this is homework for the reader.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the paragraph at the top of the page, I think that's what the water scroll's about, is just like when to use each weapon.
Yeah, well, he does talk about using them in both hands, which, I mean, they do have different uses even when you're holding both of them at the same time.
Yeah, but then this part where it's wielded in spacious places and confined spaces, I think he talks about like, okay, I think someone told me he
That's
gets
more-
to guns. He gets to guns in this book, and it's really funny.
Oh, does he? Okay, that's
Yeah.
more of the traditional use of them. That's why you left one outside and took one in.
Yeah.
And he also talks about, how every warrior should use all their weapons. And I wondered what it would be like in modern combat, with the assault rifle in one hand and a sidearm in the other.
We need. I gotta know. I gotta know what could happen.
Come on, John Wick 5?
Because I mean, from what I've heard, I think even bows would be effective in modern combat if you weight the tips right, weight the arrows right.
Yeah, there's actually no. It depends on the sort of combat zone. Even into the 21st century, there were soldiers who would use swords and guns together.
Yeah, because I think someone in World War II, someone was tagging people with a longbow off like the back of a motorcycle.
Oh yeah, World War II had a lot of goofy stuff. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. I don't know who
World
it
War
was.
One,
but
of
it's
course,
pretty
had
cool.
horses and tanks, and zeppelins and biplanes and gas and runners
Yeah. Okay. World War One was
and
like actual.
drummers.
World War One is actually a fucking GTA lobby.
Man, that's something.
World War One was something else.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a good book about that.
There's probably a few.
There's some good movies about it.
Do any of the movies have the shenanigans?
I haven't seen the one that Peter Jackson directed. They Will Not Grow Old, but it's a documentary, so it probably does.
Huh.
Some of my favorite parts of that were like the armistice at the end of toward the end of the war. They were supposed to cease fire on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918, but most of the Germans did not want to carry their munitions back home as they would have been required to do. So they just started blasting all of their ammo into nothing right before the armistice. Just so they
Damn.
didn't have to take it home.
That's fair. That shit was probably heavy.
Yeah, and there's a great story in that where there's a guy, he actually is known by name, I just don't remember it, who is like at the machine gun and like 2 minutes to the 11 o'clock just empties the entire thing into just the dirt, and then right on the dot he does like a very theatrical bow on the no man's land and then goes back into the trench.
That's amazing.
World War One was certainly a time.
It was certainly a time in history. Alright. Let's see. On knowing the principles of the words of martial arts. In this path, someone who has learned to wield the longsword is customarily called a martial artist in our society. In the profession of martial arts, one who can shoot a bow, is called an archer. Well, one who has learned to use a gun is called a gunner.
Here we go.
That's funny. One who has learned to use a spear is called a lancer. You know, not someone who uses a lance. While one who has learned to use a halberd is called a halberdier. Is that the right way to say that? I've never actually said it.
I believe so, yeah.
If we followed this pattern, one who has learned the way of the sword would be called the longswordsman, and the sidearm the sidearmsman. Since the bow, the gun, the spear, and the halberd are all tools of warriors, all of them are avenues of the martial arts. Nevertheless, it is logical to speak of martial arts in specific reference to the longsword, because society and individuals are both ordered by way of the powers of the longsword. Therefore, the longsword is the origin of martial arts. When you have attained the power of a longsword, you can single-handedly prevail over 10 men. When it is possible to overcome 10 men single-handedly, then it is possible to overcome 1,000 men with 100, and to overcome 10,000 men with 1,000. Therefore, in the martial arts of my individual school, it is the same for 1 man as it is for 10,000. All of the sciences of warriors, without exception, are called martial arts. As far as paths are concerned, there are Confucians, Buddhists, tea connoisseurs, teachers of etiquette, dancers, and so on. These things do not exist in the way of warriors, but even if they are not your path, if you have wide knowledge of the ways, you encounter them in everything. In any case, as human beings, it is essential for each of us to cultivate and polish our individual path.
Truly the 3 religions. Confucianism, Buddhism, tea.
Don't forget dancing.
Yeah,
But no,
I just like the tea is entire discipline.
dude, this is like 1600 Japan, dude. Of course, it's a discipline.
No, I know.
What else do they have to do?
Yeah, I think this is a great example of how Japanese culture is so advanced it starts wrapping around to the other end.
Yeah. But I also,
Yeah.
okay, I love this section because I think this part right here about, if you beat 10 guys, you can just gather 1,000 people and beat 10,000 people. Like, it's simple math. Just add a 0.
Yeah, it's like Horatius on the bridge, sort of.
Yeah, just add a 0 and you can body that many.
Yeah.
It's a very good message.
I
And
mean,
then-
yeah, the math does technically check out.
And then I think up top up here is like, the longsword. How like the longsword is viewed as like the weapon of war. Kind of
Yeah,
carries
kinda
over
is.
to today. Has like the generic assault rifle is the weapon of war.
That's true, yeah.
Highlight it.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Makes you want to get proficient in the swordsmanship.
I don't know. It kind of pushes me towards the assault rifle.
Well, he only puts guns in there very eventually. He's like, yeah, they're not the real martial art.
Oh no, I think he'll get there. He'll get there.
Okay.
But
I do have a long sword actually.
I have just got a couple short swords.
I'm just not any good with it. Maybe I'll learn to become proficient.
We should do a sword training stream.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty hype. But yeah, longsword society. I love how he uses society a lot as like a
You live in
justification.
society.
Like because society believes in the longsword, you can. This is the one, yeah. Because society believes in the longsword. As long as you can use it, you're golden.
We truly live in a
We
society.
truly live in a society. This is basically so today. If you can kill 10 guys with an assault rifle, you're the best. You're the champion.
But it's easy to do that now.
I mean, if they're equally armed, then it's a bit of an equalizer.
That's true, I suppose.
If they're equally armed, then I think this paragraph still holds up.
Yeah, I suppose that's fair.
And then if you reach the end of the paragraph where you're beating 10,000 guys, you're just actually big boss at that point.
Yeah, really.
All right.
Is it, are we to the next section now?
Yeah, go for it.
Alright. On knowing the advantages of weapons in martial arts. In distinguishing the advantages of the tools of warriors, we find that whatever the weapon, there is a time and situation in which it is appropriate. The sidearm or short sword is mostly advantageous in confined spaces, or at close quarters, when you get right up close to an opponent. The longsword generally has appropriate uses in any situation. The halberd seems to be inferior to the spear on the battlefield. Look, that one just sucks.
Yeah, spears are just actually worse halberds.
The spear is the vanguard, the halberd the rear guard. Oh, okay.
Okay, buddy.
Given the same degree of training, one with the spear is a bit stronger. Both the spear and the halberd depend on circumstances. Neither is very useful in crowded situations. They're not even appropriate for taking prisoners. They should be reserved for use on the battlefield. They're essential weapons in pitched battle. If you nevertheless learn to use them indoors, focusing attention on petty details, and thus losing their real way, they will hardly prove suitable. Damn, he's kind of roasting these guys.
Yeah, don't use a spear indoor, bozo. What are you doing?
He's basically saying spears suck.
Spears really kind of do.
Yeah. They were unskilled weapons. They were meant for non-warriors primarily.
Yeah, because they were based off pitchforks and like farming hoes for, you know.
Right. Yeah, and also they required less metal to produce. So
Yeah,
often, as in the movie Seven Samurai, all the villagers got spears that they made out of their tools because they were unskilled weapons and they can be retreated from the action a little bit.
Yeah, you actually don't even need metal to make a spear if you just sharpen the end of a really big stick.
Yeah, that's true. You don't. The metal helps.
It helps,
It's also
but
why.
it's a piercing weapon,
also
so
why
you don't
axes
actually
were-
need the strength.
Yeah, axes were also a very common weapon for poor peasants too.
They're common, but I think axes still hold up on a battlefield. I really like axes are weighted so well that they just work.
Axes do still have occasional use tactically, yeah,
Yeah.
but they're also a tool too. So they have still dual uses. Spears are not even a tool.
Spears are just like
Spears
funny.
just
They're
take the yellow.
big funny, yeah. But I think axes. I'm a big advocate for axes.
Tactical axes are pretty cool, actually.
Any kind of axe or hatchet has like infinite uses, no matter what.
Yeah. Anyway, the bow is also suitable on the battlefield for making strategic charges and retreats, because it can be fired rapidly at the moment's notice from the ranks of lancers and others. It is particularly good for battle in the open fields. It is inadequate, however, for sieging a castle, and for situations where the opponent is more than 40 yards away. In the present age, not only the bow, but also other arts have more flowers than fruit. Such skills are useless when there is a real need. Inside the castle walls, nothing compares to a gun. Here we go.
Yeah.
Even in engagement in the open field, there are many advantages to a gun before the battle has begun. Once the ranks have closed in battle, however, it is no longer adequate. One virtue of the bow is that you can see the trail of the arrows to shoot, which is good. An inadequacy of the gun is that the path of bullets cannot be seen. This should be given careful consideration.
Yeah. There you
It's not
go.
every time, man. As for horses, it is essential for them to have powerful stamina and not be temperamental. Which here's about cars.
Oh, buddy.
Speaking in general terms of the tools of the warrior, one's horse should stride grandly. One's long and short swords should cut grandly. One's spear and halberd should penetrate grandly. One's bow and gun should be strong and accurate. You should not have any special fondness for a particular weapon, or anything else for that matter. Too much is the same as not enough. Without imitating anyone else, you should have as much weaponry as suits you. To entertain likes and dislikes is bad for both commanders and soldiers. Pragmatic thinking is essential.
Alright.
Interesting?
Very, very interesting. So,
I mean, I think there's still some truth to it.
yeah,
There are uses for everything.
everything has use except for spears, apparently.
Yeah, this is like, again, I mean, I'm not that into Fate, really, but it's funny how it's drawing my mind here. Because Lancers are just objectively the worst class in that.
Yeah. 'Cause
He's
I think
really onto something.
the point of lancers and spearsmen is to have a shield too. 'Cause you're supposed to hide behind the shield and then just poke.
Well, that was usually a group effort, but yeah.
Yeah, like a phalanx.
Yeah.
And that's the point. They're good in large numbers. Like they're very, very
or indeed a
situational.
manifold, but better phalanx.
Yeah. But yeah, they're very
But yeah.
situational.
Where is the gunner class in Fate?
Yeah, I wonder how, like, Do guns
I
still?
will pick up Grand Order if we get a gunner class.
Oh my fucking god. But yeah, I wonder if guns still work the way they're described here, as like only being good indoors.
Uh,
Because like modern guns
don't know
kind of
what-
are.
I don't know what his reasoning is for that. His
Because
reasoning is partly is that the battle is like primarily fought with, you know, swords and whatnot, so the ranks close to do that.
so yeah, so
In
back
which
in
case,
Hmm? What?
in which case a gun is not really useful there because you're too likely to hit allies.
yeah, that, and even if you're firing into the enemy, the gun's penetration power back then was not enough to tag, like, you know, you couldn't like tag through people.
Yeah, and the accuracy was generally not that good either.
Yeah, that's
And
why they
reloads
said
were
bows
slow.
bows for longer ranges, yeah.
Yeah,
But like modern day though, I think bows have been replaced by just specialized guns.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, most everything is just all firearms now, just one kind or the other. But a sniper rifle is different than a sidearm.
It very
So
much
I think
is.
I think the principles still apply, but the weaponry is very different now.
I'm still a big advocate. I think I want a gun, like a big gun company, to remake the blunderbuss, cause like that has use.
Yeah, there's the green text about that, isn't there?
Yeah, just throw your shit into a blunderbuss and you're off to the races.
Using it for home defense, I think. And just
Oh
making it
yeah,
obliterate the
that's a
entire
naval
room.
naval cannon. Yeah,
Oh, okay, yeah.
yeah. But yeah, blunderbusses, because like I think the point of those is like you just pick up a rock, throw it in there, and you're good to go.
Oh, yeah, true.
Because the way the barrel's shaped, it's just like a bucket.
Yeah. What a funny weapon.
It worked. I think they should make a revolving blunderbuss. You just grab 6 random objects, throw them in there, you're good to go.
Yeah. That's certainly a gun of all time.
I'd buy that one. I'd be in the beta testing for that one. I don't care if I blow my hand off. That'd be sick.
Damn.
And then horses are just motorcycles now.
Yeah, really. Although I think they are also any kind, like a Jeep or something in this context.
Yeah.
Motorcycles have limited tactical use.
Unfortunately, they're very cool.
So they had them in World War One because what didn't they have?
They had everything listed here is probably in World War One at some point.
Absolutely, they did use bows at certain points.
But yeah, I know. Okay, actually, for on horses and spears, I know the Chinese had a fucking brutal technique of if they were like facing down like a line of cavalry, they would put their spears at like a 45-degree angle and bury one end in the ground. So when a horse ran through it, it would just run through the whole ass horse.
Yeah, that's kind of like the traps in Vietnam, right?
I think so, except
It
there would
wasn't
be.
it wasn't spears.
Yeah, I think so, except with the Chinese variant, there would be someone holding the spear. So that guy would just get covered in horse. If it worked.
That sounds like China.
He would either get run over by the horse, or he would just be covered in horse.
Yeah, that sounds like China. Honestly.
Yeah. Ugh, alright, anyway. Is this one mine or yours?
I just did the last one,
Okay,
and because I remember that this should be given careful consideration. Let's keep a count of those.
Take a shot every time.
Yeah, really.
Alright. On rhythm in martial arts. Okay, anyway. Rhythm is something that exists in everything, but the rhythms of martial arts in particular are difficult to master without practice. Rhythm is manifested in the world in such things as dance and music, pipes and strings. These are all harmonious rhythms. In the field of martial arts, there are rhythms and harmonies in archery, gunner, and even horsemanship. In all arts and sciences, rhythm is not to be ignored. There is even rhythm in being empty. In the professional life of warrior, there are rhythms of rising to office and rhythms of stepping down, rhythms of fulfillment and rhythms of disappointment. In the field of commerce, there are rhythms of becoming rich and rhythms of losing one's fortune. Harmony and disharmony in rhythm occur in every walk of life. It is imperative to distinguish carefully between the rhythms of flourishing, the rhythms of decline in every single thing. The rhythms of martial arts are varied. First, know the right rhythms and understand the wrong rhythms. and discern the appropriate rhythms from among great and small and slow and fast rhythms. No, I can't fucking say rhythm one more goddamn time. Know the rhythms of spatial
I ain't got
relations.
rhythm.
Know the rhythms of reversal. These matters are specialities of martial arts. Unless you understand these rhythms of reversal, your martial arts artistry will not be reliable. The way to win in a battle according to military science is to know the rhythms of a battle of specific opponents and use rhythms that your opponents do not expect, producing formless rhythms from rhythms of wisdom. How many fucking times? With the science of martial arts of my individual school outlined above, by diligent practice day and night, the mind is naturally broadened, transmitting it to the world as both collective and individual military science. And I write it down for the first time in these 5 scrolls entitled Earth, Water, Fire, Wind, and Emptiness. For people who want to learn my military science, there are rules for learning the art. Think of what is right and true, practice and cultivate the science, become acquainted with the arts, know the principles of the crafts, understand the harm and benefit in everything, learn to see everything accurately, become aware of what is not obvious, careful even in small matters, do not do anything useless. Generally speaking, the science of martial arts should be practiced with such principles in mind. In this particular science, you can hardly become master of martial arts unless you can see the immediate and the broad context. Once you have learned the principle, you should not be defeated even in individual combat against 20 or 30 opponents. First of all, keep martial arts on your mind, and work diligently in a straightforward manner. Then you can win with your hands. You can also defeat people by seeing with your eyes. Furthermore, when you refine your practice to the point where you attain freedom of the whole body, then you can overcome people by means of your body. And since your mind is trained in this science, you can also overcome people by means of mind. When you reach this point, how could you be defeated by others? Also, large-scale military science is a matter of winning at keeping good people, winning at employing large numbers of people, winning at correctness of personal conduct, winning at governing nations, winning at taking care of the populace, winning at carrying out customary social observances. In whatever field of endeavor, knowledge of how to avoid losing out to others, how to help oneself, and how to enhance one's honor is part of military science. And that's the Earth Scroll.
He's using military science as a general life philosophy. I think he's applying it to government even.
Is he applying military to life or life to military?
Both, I think. I mean, it makes sense definitely to apply military science to politics, in his age especially.
Yeah.
I kind of missed the first part because I just heard rhythm over and over again.
Literally just like things happen and like it's called a rhythm, you know?
Yeah. I ain't got rhythm, but it's Miyamoto Musashi having rhythm.
Yeah, it's literally a rhythm game.
Yeah. It's really interesting. I don't know. I almost feel like I don't know how popular this book is in the cultural sphere in Japan, but it seems like a lot of the elements of it are stuff that seem very relevant even today.
Yeah.
Like rhythm is something that they're particularly fond of.
Yeah.
Rhythm games, as you said. And all the types of weapons that he mentions specifically are all weapons in like the Holy Grail War.
Yeah. So yeah, what's your opinion on the Earth Scroll now that we finished it?
9. Do not do anything useless.
I love that one.
Yeah.
Actual peak rule set right there. Just don't do anything useless. Doesn't even attempt to like define what it is. Doesn't define what's useful. Just don't do anything useless.
Yep. Yeah.
What a guy.
Don't be stupid.
Don't be stupid. Alright, the Water Scroll.
Okay.
Go on.
The heart of the individual Two Skies school of martial arts is based on water, putting the methods of the art of the advantage into practice. I therefore call this the Water Scroll, in which I write about the longsword system of this individual school. It is by no means possible for me to write down this science precisely as I understand it in my heart. Yet even if the words are not forthcoming, the principle should be self-evident. As for what is written down here, every single word should be given thought. If you think about it in broad outlines, you will get many things wrong. As for the principles of martial arts, although there are places in which I have written of them in terms of a duel between two individuals, it is essential to understand in terms of a battle between two armies, being on a large scale. In this way of life in particular, if you misperceive the path even slightly, if you stray from the right way, you fall into evil states. The science of martial arts is not just a matter of reading these writings. Taking what is written here personally, do not think you are reading or learning, and do not make up an imitation. Taking the principles as if they are discovered from your own mind, identify them constantly and work on them carefully.
Oh, that's the whole thing.
That's the whole paragraph to say, please consider this carefully again.
Put it on the counter.
Also, when he says if you misperceive things, you fall into evil states.
Yeah.
I don't know what he means by that. Seems like if you misperceive things in battle, and much of what he's describing, you end up dead.
I don't know. I don't know what that paragraph means. However, I have a feeling it is very pertinent to the modern day.
Yeah, it reminded me of a thing I was reading about. Someone was describing how to control a helicopter, and said that if you lose control of the cyclic, you end up in less than desirable flight attitudes.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty
Evil
accurate.
state is sort of a way to say dead.
That's suboptimal.
Yeah, really. Not a preferred technique. It's a time loss.
Yeah, that's a time save for next run though. All right, here we go. State of mind in martial arts. In the science of martial arts, the state of mind should remain the same as normal. In ordinary circumstances, as well as practicing martial arts, let there be no change at all, with the mind open and direct, neither tense nor lax, centering the mind so that there is no imbalance, calmly relaxing your mind, and savor this moment of ease thoroughly so that the relaxation does not stop its relaxation for even an instant. They could have translated that better. Even when still...
listen to the run-on.
Yeah. Even when still, your mind is not still. Even when hurried, your mind is not hurried. The mind is not dragged by the body. The body is not dragged by the mind. Pay attention to the mind, not the body. Let there be neither insufficiency nor excess in your mind. Even if superficially weak-hearted, be inwardly strong-hearted. And do not let others see into your mind. It is essential for those who are physically small to know what it's like to be large, and for those who are physically large to know what it's like to be small. Whether you are physically large or small, it is essential to keep your mind free from subjective biases. Let your inner mind be unclouded and open, placing your intellect on a broad plane. It is essential to polish the intellect and mind diligently. Once you have sharpened your intellect to the point where you can see whatever in the world is true or not, where you can tell whatever is good or bad, and when you are experienced in various fields and are incapable of being fooled at all by people of the world, then your mind will become imbued with the knowledge and wisdom of the art of war. There's something special about knowledge of the art of war. It is imperative to master the principles of the art of war and learn to be unmoved in mind, even in the heat of battle. Keep cool and carry on, basically.
That whole section, especially the second paragraph there, read a lot like Marcus Aurelius. The mind is not dragged by the body is not dragged by the mind, that kind of thing. Very much Marcus Aurelius.
Very, not repetitive, but like mirrored statements.
Yeah, sort of. Just the writing style. It's Greek inspired, which is what Aurelius was doing. This is coincidental. Again, he didn't have contact with a lot of philosophy, or any, as far as I know.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Or, I don't know,
Buddhism, I suppose.
maybe like one or two books drifted over the ocean. We found
Buddhism.
them. Yeah, that's a mental health check right there. Just keep your shit together.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. And then here's the other side of that with physical. Go on.
Physical bearing in martial arts. As for physical appearance, your face should not be tilted downward, upward, or to the side. Your gaze should be steady. Do not wrinkle your forehead, but make a furrow between your eyebrows. Keep your eyes unmoving and try not to blink. Narrow your eyes slightly. The idea is to keep a serene expression on your face, nose straight, chin slightly forward. The back of the neck should be straight, with strength focused in the nape. Feeling the whole body from the shoulders down is one. Lower the shoulders. Keep the spine straight. Do not let the buttocks stick out. Concentrate power in the lower leg and the knees down to the tips of the feet. Ease the abdomen so the waist does not bend. There is a teaching called tightening the wedge, which means that the abdomen is braced by the scabbard of the shorts in such a manner that the belt does not loosen. Generally speaking, it is essential to make your ordinary bearing the bearing you use in martial arts, and make the bearing you use in martial arts your ordinary bearing. This should be given careful consideration.
Yeah. So basically, just stand as like you're bossed up. Just
Yeah,
JoJo pose on him.
sort of describing the man with no name, Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
Which is
Another
the furrowed
samurai cowboy
brow.
Link parallel.
Yeah, really is. Well, that movie, the first movie with that Fistful of Dollars, is a direct remake of Akira Kurosawa's movie Yojimbo.
Oh yeah, I heard that one.
Yeah, they're both very good in their own right.
So yeah, that's how to think and how to stand. Summed up.
Stance up.
Stanced up. Could have just been summarized with hold RB to stance up, but whatever.
Yeah, that's the fighting pose move.
Yeah. Alright, here's something pretty short. Focus of the eyes in martial arts. The eyes are to be focused in such a way as to maximize the range and breadth of vision. Observation and perception are two separate things. The observing eye is stronger, and the perceiving eye is weaker. A specialty of martial arts is to see that which is far away closely, and to see which is nearby from a distance. In martial arts, it is important to be aware of opponent's swords, and yet not look at opponent's swords at all. This takes work. This matter of focusing the eyes is the same in both small and large-scale military science. It is essential to see both sides without moving the eyeballs. Things like this are hard to master all at once when you're in a hurry. Remember what is written here. Constantly accustom yourself to this eye focus and find out the state where your eye focus does not change no matter what happens. Any thoughts on that one?
The way that he described, like, see both sides without moving your eyeballs and stuff, almost has a hint of Indian philosophy to it. It reminded me just of the lyric from The Inner Light, which is like a George Harrison song. See all without looking. Do all without doing. I think the other one's arrive without traveling.
Huh.
I mean, that would tie into the Buddhism a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He means it more. I don't know if he means it all this stuff literally, because he's also using it to apply to life broadly.
Yeah, I think that this one's definitely about awareness, whereas I think when you're like looking down an opponent in a sword fight, you want to look, your like direct vision wants to be on them, as to look where you're striking, but your focus wants to be on their weapon to look where to defend. So your eyes are doing one thing and your body's preparing for another. And so that typically is manifested or written as a sixth sense.
Yeah, and also the more literal reading of this reminds me of the character from Metal Gear. I think Vamp, when he can predict the way you're going to shoot.
Yeah, because he senses your muscle
body
movement. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
He definitely, yeah, because he visually reads your muscles, whereas in the real world, it's more of a sense of impending doom.
Yeah, yeah, but he says to be aware of the opponent's swords but not look at the swords. That almost reads like view their movement.
Yeah, I think someone else wrote it better as like if you look at their body, just look at the body, Because if you see their arms, the way their arms are moving, you'll know where their sword's gonna be.
Yeah,
I think that's definitely a better way to put it for beginners.
yeah.
Whereas instead of just like look, okay, like look but don't see or see but don't look, is definitely kind of harder to interpret.
A little more philosophical to say it that way.
Yeah.
Well,
Anyway,
looks like the rest of them in this section is short, so let's get on to the next one.
yeah, have fun talking about gripping.
Gripping the sword. I know a thing or two about gripping swords. In wielding the longsword, the thumb and forefinger grip lightly. The middle finger grips neither lightly nor loosely, while the fourth and little fingers grip tightly. There should be no slackness in the hand. The longsword should be taken up with the thought that it is something for killing opponents. Let there be no change in your grip, even when slashing opponents. Make sure that your grip, make your grip such that your hand does not flinch. When you strike an opponent's sword, block it, or pin it down, your thumb and forefinger alone should change somewhat, but in any case you should grip your sword with the thought of killing. Your grip when cutting something to test your blade, and your grip when slashing in combat should be no different. Gripping the sword as you would kill a man. Generally speaking, fixation and binding are to be avoided in both the sword and the hand. Fixation is the way to death, validity is the way to life. This is something that should be well understood. That's another way of saying consider.
Well, at least he changed up the phrasing this time.
He did a little bit.
Maybe that's just on the train. Maybe the translator got tired of it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But as I was saying, I said that facetiously, but I mean, actually when you do grip a sword, there are particular ways that you don't want your thumb to be wrapped around the handle, you want it to be parallel.
yeah, because it gives you more leverage. Or at least
And
for
also
katanas.
Avoids your thumb sticking out and at risk of being cut off.
Yeah.
You want it parallel right behind the crossbar.
Yeah.
But thinking about that made me realize that he's not really even describing anything technique-wise in this section. He
Oh, he's
hasn't really
just talking
described
about
technique
grip.
at all. He did, but he says like you should change your grip somewhat. I don't know.
He's do what feels right.
Yeah, because I think he's not literally describing how to wield a sword. He's just describing this metaphorically as a way of.
I think the point of this section is to just have confidence in your grip. Like know the technique, but have enough confidence to hold it how
I
you
think
need
it's
to
almost
hold it.
metaphorically to have confidence in your skills. Period.
Yeah. And also like adapt. Like the part about like changing the grip is like adapt. when you
Yeah,
need to.
and be ready to commit.
Unless you're have you seen those fucking French basket handle swords?
Yes, I have.
Those are really funny and you can hold them however you want.
Well, yes, they're French. Yeah.
But like your fingers are gonna be fine.
Yeah, because there's probably, I don't know what they invented this for.
Not
I
getting
think
your
they were
fingers
for
cut off.
nobles who didn't want their fingers cut off. Yeah.
Isn't it? I asked this like you've ever used one. Isn't it weirder to like adjust your grip though? Because like there's just like a hole for your hand.
They're a one-handed sword, so you don't really need to adjust your grip much. It's something that's only really possible seriously with more than one, so with two hands. You can move your thumb.
I mean, even with one-handed swords, if you're switching like styles, you can switch grips. Because I know definitely like well, basket handle swords were typically rapiers, so they were more for like fencing style.
Yeah,
quick
I don't
thrust.
know that much about fencing style, so I don't know. how you
It's
do that.
terrible. Don't even bother.
It's not even a real fighting style.
It's not a real
but-
fighting style. Rapiers, French swords aren't real swords.
Yeah, it's more of a dance.
Yeah. No, it's literally turn-based combat. I did fencing once. It's literally turn-based combat.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah. Alright, anyway, I'm a big fan of this. I haven't read it, but I'm a fan of this next section because footwork is my bread and butter because I weigh like 2 grams.
Yeah, you into feet?
Get off my fucking show. Alright, alright. On footwork. In your footwork, you should tread strongly on your heels while allowing some leeway in your toes. Although your stride may be long or short, slow or fast, according to the situation, it is to be as normal. Flighty steps, unsteady steps, and stomping steps are to be avoided. Among the important elements of this science is what's called complementary stepping. This is essential. Complementary stepping means that when you do not move one foot alone. When you slash, when you pull back, and even when you parry, you step right, left, right, left. With complementary steps, be very sure not to step with one foot alone. This is something that demands careful examination.
Every section, he's gonna do it.
He wants you to examine every section. He wants you to think.
We are
about every
examining it,
section.
though.
We very much are. We are actually taking the time to reflect. And so this one is this is actually just another be confident and firm in your actions. So
Yeah. Well, isn't the footwork hero the exact opposite of fencing footwork? Because that is on your toes.
it's the opposite of a lot of footwork. It really depends on the style because you want stomping steps in Eastern European combat. You want flighty steps in Western European and Chinese combat. You want unsteady steps if you're suicidal, and
Unless it's drunken wushu.
drunken wushu is something else and typically unarmed. Both combatants are
I
unarmed.
mean, yeah, I know, but you could apply some of the step stuff otherwise.
Yeah, it really depends. Each area of the world has such like vastly different footwork in their combat. It's hard to like pin it down. But I think just generally firm, confident steps are the way to go. Because I think
yeah, you could also metaphorically use it to apply for like moving forward in more metaphorical sense.
that and so flighty steps and stomping steps, I think by avoiding these, like you don't want your first step to be flighty and you don't want your first step to be a stomp, because those will lock you into that style. But if you stand like naturally and normally, you can go into a dodge or like a firmer stance as you need to.
Yeah,
And so I think
That's
this
true.
is just be confident and be ready.
yeah, that's true. Footwork is some of the basis for all of it.
It's the cornerstone of everything basically.
Yeah.
All your power and strike comes from your legs. Both
Yeah.
unarmed and armed. It all goes to and from your legs.
Yeah, it does. True.
All right, now this is where it gets quirky because Japanese guarding stances are really funny.
Really, I don't know too much about them.
They don't either. Just read it, you'll find out.
Well, they didn't have shields, so
Yeah. Oh no, that makes it even funnier. Just go for it.
5 kinds of guard. There's a note for this one too.
We're not reading translator's notes.
5 kinds of guard. The word for guard. Yeah, I'm translating that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, put that on. What
Oh.
page are we on?
Also, we're on page 41, second half. Also, quick note: they did have shields.
Not very often, though.
Not often, and they were not good. What they did was they took their shield material, and that was just samurai armor. Like they just made smaller shields and strapped them on.
Like leather?
Yeah, pretty much. They weren't made of
Oof.
leather, but like they were worn like leather armor.
Oh!
They
yeah,
had like
yeah,
I think
know.
the shields were like sometimes bamboo and just like wood.
And they wore them on like their shoulders and stuff.
They wore them on shoulders and chest, and it was really, there were some shenanigans going on.
Yeah. I like the leather, personally.
Yeah, the leather probably helped a bit more because they could actually move in it.
Well, it's just an interesting choice of armor. And then the only time I think of leather armor, I think of Minecraft.
Leather armor has its purpose in ancient times. It's better than nothing.
Yeah, that's true. It's a little bit better for like with slashing blows.
Yeah, definitely. Most armor is geared towards slashing because like actual like striking blows, nothing's gonna stop it. Like medieval armor got fucking dented to shit.
Yeah.
So like yeah.
Like knights in shining armor was sort of more geared toward defending against stab.
Oh yeah,
Unless
Yeah.
it was a rapier, which is one of the ways to take them down.
yeah. Rapier to the underarm because that gets their heart.
Yeah, exactly.
Also,
Anyway,
knights in shining armor were also like the tippity top of knights. Everyone else got chainmail.
No, I know. Yeah, chainmail is a pretty good one though.
Chainmail's a solid choice. Alright, anyway, go on.
Anyway, the 5 kinds of guard. The 5 kinds of guard are the upper position, middle position, lower position, right-hand guard, and left-hand guard. Although the guard may be divided into 5 kinds, all of them are for the purpose of killing people. Surely they would be for the purpose of not being killed, but
You would think.
there are other kinds of guard besides these 5. Whatever guard you adopt, be nice to them, treat them well. Do not think of it as being on guard, think of it as part of the act of killing. Whether you adopt a large or small guard depends on the situation. Follow whatever is most advantageous. The upper, middle, and lower positions are solid guards, while the 2 sides are fluid guards. The right and left guards are for places where there is no room overhead or to one side. Whether to adopt the right or left guard is decided according to the situation. What is important in this pack is to realize that the consummate guard is the middle position. The middle position is what the guard is all about. Consider it in terms of large-scale military science, and he likes to do this too. The center is the seat of the general, while following the general are the other 4 guards. This should be examined carefully.
Dude, every time, every paragraph. All right, well, let's examine it carefully. What's your favorite kind of guard?
I mean, the middle is the most useful one. He's right.
Yeah, if you're standing like straight on, yeah.
Well, and if you're doing one-on-one combat, which is I think he's describing primarily too.
Yeah, I think that most of it, well, no, actually, 1-on-1 is the same as 1-on-10, which is the same as 100 on 1,000. You know.
That's true. That's true.
Literally the same thing.
It really is. It's almost like 1 in 1,000.
Yeah. Yeah. Literally just put your sword in front. Literally just keep your sword in front of you and move as needed.
Yeah.
That's
Again, he has not described a lot of things in particular detail here either.
Yeah, he's keeping it very like basic.
Yeah.
Like
I'm
not
sure
exactly vague, but basic.
It's just meant for people who understand this well enough that this is useful advice.
Yeah, I
Or
kind of
is
get
this
it actually.
All meant metaphorically.
Oh no, I get it in terms of like literally.
I mean, I think it is literal, but I think it's like he's describing a literal types of sword play and whatnot, but the principles are almost like apply the same kinds of thinking to your life in other ways. You have to defend against things, certainly.
Yeah. And then
That would
think of guarding. Think of it as part of the act of killing. So whenever you defend, think of it as making a move towards what you want to do. You can move towards your goal.
I guess it makes sense to defend so you can be on the attack.
Yeah. Very cool. Alright. Way of the Long Sword. To know the way of the long sword means that even when you are wielding your sword with 2 fingers, you know just how to do it and can swing it easily. When you try to swing the long sword fast, you deviate from the way of the long sword, and so it is hard to swing. The idea is to swing the sword calmly, so that it is easy to do. When you try to swing a long sword fast, the way you might when using a fan or a short sword, you deviate from the way of the long sword, so it is hard to swing. That is called short sword mincing, and is ineffective for killing a man with a long sword. When you strike downward with the long sword, bring it back up in a convenient way. So when you swing it sideways, bring it back sideways, returning it in a convenient way. Extending the elbow as far as possible and swinging powerfully is the way of the longsword.
You do want your elbows extended so it's farthest away from you.
Yeah, and then, yeah, elbows extended for more range and leverage. That's the word.
Yeah. It's almost like a golf swing. You don't want to be too hard or too soft. You just want to go with it naturally as you swing.
And then the part about the short sword, I think that's a metaphor for just like sometimes skills are not transferable. So do what you're trying to do and don't try to like do it like you do something else. Like don't try to drive a car like you drive a motorcycle.
Yeah, don't countersteer.
Yeah. So yeah, just know what you're doing and you're not doing the other thing.
Yeah. know what you're doing, definitely have to get that described.
Yeah. And then, do we want to divide these by technique or just whole section?
Uh, it's still pretty short to do a whole section.
How long
So,
is it? Let's see.
just a one page book.
It is not one. It's like 3 pages or 2.5 pages.
No, no. Fifth technique, and then it goes to on teaching of having a position.
Yeah, that's 1, 2.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't know why I counted one.
It's 2.5.
That's
So
two and a half. Then let's just go alternate, but no break between them.
all right, got it. Go for it.
Procedures of 5 formal techniques. First technique. In the first technique, the guard is in the middle position, with the tip of the sword pointed at the opponent's face. When you close ranks with the opponent and the opponent strikes with the long sword, counter by deflecting it to the right. When the opponent strikes again, you hit the point of the sword back up, your sword now having bounced downward. Leave it as it is until the opponent strikes again, whereupon you strike the opponent's hands from below. In these 5 formal techniques can hardly be understood just by writing about them. Yes, we've noticed. These 5 formal techniques are to be practiced with sword in hand. By means of these 5 outlines of swordplay, you will know my science of swordplay, and the techniques employed by the opponent will also be evident. This is the point of telling you that there are no more than 5 guards in the two-sword method of swordsmanship. Training and practice are imperative.
Second technique. In the second technique of swordplay, the guard is in the upper position, and you strike the opponent at the very same time as the opponent tries to strike you. If your sword misses the opponent, leave it there for a moment until the opponent strikes again, whereupon you strike from below, sweeping upward. The same principle applies when you strike once more. Within this technique are various states of mind and various rhythms. If you practice the training of my individual school by means of what lies within this technique, you will gain thorough knowledge of the 5 ways of swordplay and will be able to win under any circumstances. It requires practice.
Third technique. In the guard of the third technique, the sword is held in the lower position, with the feeling of taking matters in hand as the opponent strikes. You strike at his hand from below. As you strike at his hand, the opponent strikes again. As he tries to knock your sword down, bring it up in rhythm. Then chop off his arms sideways after he is struck. The point is to strike an opponent down all at once from the lower position just a few strikes. The guard with the sword in the lower position is something that is met both early on and later in the course of carrying out this science. It should be practiced with sword in hand. Oh boy, that's his new thing.
Fourth technique. In the guard of the fourth technique, the sword is held horizontally to the left side to hit the opponent's hands from below while he tries to strike. When the opponent tries to knock down your sword as it strikes forward from below, block the path of his sword just like that, with the idea of hitting his hand and cut diagonally upward towards your shoulder. This is the way to handle a longsword. This is also the way to win by blocking the path of the opponent's sword if he tries to strike again. This should be considered carefully. He went back to that one for a sec.
He did. Fifth technique. In the fifth procedure, the sword is held horizontally to your right side. When you note the position of the opponent's attack, you swing your sword from the lower side diagonally upward into the upper guard position, then slash directly from above. This is also essential for expertise in the use of the longsword. When you can wield the sword according to this technique, then you can wield a heavy longsword freely. These 5 formal techniques are not to be written down in detail. To understand the use of the long sword in my school, and also generally comprehend rhythms and discern opponent's swordplay techniques, first use these 5 techniques to develop your skills constantly. Even when fighting with opponents, you perfect the use of the long sword, sensing the minds of opponents, using various rhythms, gaining victory in any way. This requires careful discernment. If a word
So what I got from that is just do it yourself. Just get out there.
Yeah, practice these. I mean, these ones are a little bit more specific.
These are
But
like
they have
too
been.
specific to be metaphors. These have to be like just literal.
These ones are, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. It seems like floating back and forth between these two, between literal and metaphorical.
Yeah. I think just I don't know what the purpose of this book was. I kind of zoned out at the beginning. I don't know if it's to literally teach you how to fight or just teach you how to go through life.
He says it's how to teach you to fight, but he also says that that is a way to go through life.
All right, very cool, Musashi. I
I
would
think
say
he.
I,
I don't know if that's literal. Like it's in his time and place. It was.
probably. I, I think the book is very not situational, but like very made by the times or made for the times.
You clearly cannot survive if you don't have a sword.
Maybe things were better that way.
Maybe we should all carry swords.
I would not be opposed to that at all. I'm so down. All right.
I can't believe swords got banned in Japan even after all
That's
this.
so stupid. And like I know exactly why too.
Yeah. The Swords and Firearms Act.
I'm just saying, bro. The one from 1960 was pretty fucking sick.
Was that because of the Yakuza?
But yeah, please don't quote me on this, but I think the Yakuza are relatively chill.
Yeah, but not back then. That's why they passed and they made that law, I believe.
Can we like unpass it now?
I wonder. Did you watch Licorice Recoil?
No, I did not.
One of the major plot points in Licorice Recoil is that everyone should be well armed. It makes for a freer society.
What the hell? Base anime?
Yeah, really bizarre.
Huh.
And it came out like months after Abe was assassinated. And
Okay.
they didn't even cut it.
That's that's kind of funny.
That's so based.
To be fair though, that the gun that was used wasn't a real gun. It was like fucking 2 barrels on a piece of wood.
I know, but like for Japan to not cut that from the air is amazing.
That's pretty uncharacteristic of them.
That's so ballsy.
I gotta
And
respect
they're making
it.
a season 2 as well.
Maybe I'll actually watch it.
It's really good.
Alright, anyway. On the teaching of having a position without a position. Having a position without a position, or a guard without a guard, means that the longsword is not supposed to be kept in a fixed position. Nevertheless, since there are 5 ways of placing the sword, the guard positions must follow along. Where you hold your sword depends on your relationship to the opponent, depends on the place, and must conform to the situation. Whenever you hold it, or wherever you hold it, the idea is to hold it so that it will be easy to kill the opponent. Sometimes the upper guard position is lowered a bit, so that it becomes the middle position, while the middle guard position may be elevated a bit, depending on the advantage thereof, so that it becomes the upper position. At times, the lower guard position is also raised a bit to become the middle position. 2 side guard positions may also be moved somewhat towards the center, depending on where you're standing vis-a-vis your opponent, resulting in either the middle or lower guard position. In this way, the principle is to have a guard position without a position. First of all, when you take up the sword, in any case, the idea is to kill an opponent. Even though you may catch, hit, or block an opponent's slashing sword, or tie it up or obstruct it, all of these moves are opportunities for cutting the opponent down. This must be understood. If you think of catching, think of hitting. Think of blocking, think of tying up, or think of obstructing, where you will thereby be unable to make the kill. It is crucial to think of everything as an opportunity to kill. This should be given careful consideration. In large-scale military science, the arraying of troops is also a matter of positioning. Every instance thereof is an opportunity to win a war. Fixation is bad. This should be worked out thoroughly.
Man, double whammy.
Wow. So, yeah, basically just, like, put your sword where it needs to be.
Don't get fixed on a particular way, yeah.
Yeah, don't, like, lock yourself up. Just, like, be fluid, like water, this is the water scroll, so very fitting.
That makes sense. Yeah, all this is pretty fluid.
This is all, yeah. But yeah, everything, when you hold a sword, you're only killing, that's all you're doing.
Yeah.
I guess that's stay focused, but stay fluid. Keep your goal in mind, but have your methods flexible.
That makes sense, yeah.
Alright, what's the next? Oh, what the
These
hell?
next are pretty short. Let's just go page by page. Maybe.
Okay, so whole pages? Alright. Go on.
Striking down an opponent in a single beat. Among the rhythms used to strike an opponent, there is what is called a single beat. Finding position where you can reach the opponent Realizing when the opponent has not determined what to do, you strike directly, as fast as possible, without moving your body or fixing your attention. The stroke with which you strike an opponent before he has thought of whether to pull back, parry, or strike is called the single beat. Once you have learned this rhythm well, you should practice striking the intervening stroke quickly.
We're going page by page, I thought.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it.
He,
The
he,
rhythm
didn't,
of
he didn't tell you to that
Yeah.
time, though.
That's true. Yeah, so we don't have to think about it if he doesn't say to.
Nice.
The rhythm of the second spring. The rhythm of the second spring is when you are about to strike and the opponent quickly pulls back or parries. You feint a blow and then strike the opponent as you relax after tensing. This is the stroke of the second spring. It will be very difficult to accomplish this stroke just by reading this book. This is something that you understand all of a sudden when you have received instruction. Is this supposed to be like a pamphlet and you sign up for his school?
Probably.
I don't think he taught like classes, but it certainly reads that way.
Huh. Must be a Japanese thing.
Yeah. And then striking without thought and without form. No thought set in. When your opponent is going to strike and you are also going to strike, your body is on the offensive, and your mind is also on the offensive. Your hands come spontaneously from space, striking with added speed and force. This is called striking without thought or form, and is the most important stroke. This stroke is encountered time and time again. It is something that needs to be learned well and refined in practice.
Okay. I get it. He wants us to practice.
Yeah, it does, and be fluid.
Yeah. The flowing water. I'm gonna go to the end of the Crimson Foliage.
Yeah.
The flowing water stroke. The flowing water stroke is used when you are going toe-to-toe with an opponent. When the opponent tries to pull away quickly, dodge quickly, or parry your sword quickly, becoming expansive in body and mind, you swing your sword from behind you in an utterly relaxed manner, as if there were some hesitation, and strike with a large and powerful stroke. Once you have learned this stroke, it is certainly easy to strike. It is essential to discern the opponent's position. The chance hit. When you launch an offensive and the opponent tries to stop it or parry it, you strike at his head, hands, and feet with one stroke. Striking wherever you can with one swoop of the sword is called the chance hit. When you learn this stroke, it is one that is always useful. It is something that requires precise discernment in the course of dueling. The spark hit. The spark hit is when your opponent's sword and your sword are locked together and you strike as strongly as possible without raising your sword at all. One must strike quickly, exerting strength with the legs, torso, and hand. This blow is hard to strike without repeated practice. If you cultivate it to perfection, it has a powerful impact. The Crimson Foliage hit. The idea of the Crimson Foliage hit is to knock the opponent's sword down and take the sword over. When an opponent is brandishing a sword before you, intending to strike, hit, or catch, you strike the opponent's sword strongly. Your striking mood of that striking without thought and without form, or even spark hitting. When you then follow up closely on that, striking with the sword tipped downward, I'm not reading that, your opponent's sword will inevitably fall. If you cultivate this blow to perfection, it is easy to knock a sword down. It must be well practiced.
That's the new thing, yeah.
Also, my neighbor with the loud ass car is back, so I'm gonna mute for a sec, keep my viewers entertained.
Okay. Well, we clearly got a scanlation moment with this insert here that isn't translated. But,
Care to try to break down that word?
Kisagari?
Very
There's
cool.
no note for what it means.
Yeah, you would think he'd put the little thing down there.
Yeah, because it was a hyperlink last time, too.
Yeah. Alright, how we dipping this one up?
I'll read
Alright.
to the end of this. The one that lives on the next page.
Alright.
The body instead of the sword. The body in this sense can also be called the body that takes place of the sword. In general, when you take the offensive, your sword and your body are not launched simultaneously. Depending on your chances of striking the opponent, you first adopt an offensive posture with your body, and your sword strikes independently of the body. Sometimes you may strike with your sword without your body stirring, but generally the body goes in the offensive first, followed up by the stroke of the sword. This requires careful observation and practice. Striking and hitting. By striking and hitting, I mean two different things. The sense of striking is that with whatever stroke you employ, you make a deliberate and certain strike. Hitting means something like running into someone. Even if you hit an opponent so hard that he dies on the spot, this is a hit. A strike is when you consciously and deliberately strike the blow that you intend to strike. This requires examination and reflection. Thank you very much. To hit an opponent on the hands or legs means to hit first in order to make a powerful strike after hitting. To hit means something like to feel out. Huh? You just...
He's just redefining words.
Yeah.
Just making shit up.
If you really learn to master this, it is something extraordinary. It takes work.
My sources, I've made it the fuck up.
You just changed the definition midway.
Maybe that was lost in translation.
Maybe it could be a different kanji.
We hate kanji here.
Yeah.
Alright, so we can call the body. So I can hit it. Yeah, I've got nothing. He just made that shit up.
Yeah.
Yeah, alright. I can't wait for the sticky body.
Oh no.
Alright, here we go. Body of the short-armed monkey. The posture of the short-armed monkey means not reaching out with your hand. The idea is that when you close in on an opponent, you get in there quickly before the opponent strikes without putting forth a hand at all. When you intend to reach forth, your body invariably pulls back, so the idea is to move the whole body quickly to get inside the opponent's defense. It is easy to get in from arm's length. This should be investigated carefully. The sticky body. The sticky body means getting inside and sticking fast to an opponent. When you get inside the opponent's defenses, you stick tight with your head, body, and legs. The average person gets his head and legs in quickly, but the body shrinks back. Sticking to an opponent means that you stick so close that there's no gap between your bodies. This should be investigated carefully. Comparing height.
Yeah, investigate the sticky body, huh?
We will. I can testament to the sticky body. Comparing height means that when you close in on an opponent, under whatever circumstances, you extend your legs, waist, and neck, so that your body does not contract, closing in powerfully. You align your face with the opponent's as if you were comparing height and proving to be the taller of the two. The essential point is to maximize your height, close in strongly. This requires careful work.
What if you're short?
Elbows. Oh, it's Japan. They're all short.
That's true, yeah, but like shorter than your opponent, I mean.
Elbows though.
Damn.
Height diff, skill issue. Okay, but the sticky body's actually huge before pocket knives were a thing. Because if you got in so close, like if you're like right on someone, they can't swing their sword, so they just straight up can't attack you.
Oh, yeah, true.
Because they can't get any momentum to their swing, and they can't just like unless they like switch their sword to a reverse, like not a reverse grip, but like Mineuchi, where you hold like the blade inward. Unless they switch to that and try to slash you, they just can't hit you.
Yeah, true.
And so sticky body, even if you're like using swords and stuff, if you're that close, you're gonna try to like knee them in the gut or like headbutt them.
It's kind of applicable to modern day too. It's kind of CQC.
Yeah, because if you get close enough, they can shoot you, but it's not like reliably.
You can point them away from shooting you though.
Yeah, like that's why if you're holding some, quick disclaimer, chat. Don't ever hold someone at gunpoint, but if you are, stand at least like 5 to 7 steps back.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because if you're holding someone at gunpoint, like point blank, that's really stupid. Because like, if they're gonna break out, that's the range to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so sticky body's unironically like the most helpful one so far. What's your favorite?
Was a short-armed monkey?
A short-armed monkey is you keep you know how in just Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake holds his gun really funny like?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that.
Oh, okay.
So that way, when your arms are close together, it's harder to cut your fucking elbows off.
True, yeah.
Yeah. So if you keep your arms short, there's less to cut, and it's easier to move your sword to cover it.
Yeah, interesting, okay.
Yeah. So what's your favorite technique so far?
Stinky body is actually pretty useful, now that you mention it.
Yeah, got a couple of sticky boys.
It's definitely not hitting and striking, 'cause the stuff kind of whatever he feels like they mean.
Yeah, hitting and striking means just like, the sword does the thing, you know.
You know, you kind of sometimes hit him, sometimes you strike him.
Yeah, but sometimes a hit isn't a strike. Which, like, it's like a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle isn't a square.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
it kind of is.
Yeah.
Carrying on from there, gluing,
Gluing.
sticky body. When your opponent and you both strike forth, and your opponent catches your blow, the idea is to close in with the sword glued to the opponent's sword. Gluing means that the sword is hard to get away from. You should close in without too much force. Sticking to the opponent's sword as if glued, when you move in close, it does not matter how quietly you move in. There is gluing and there is leaning. Gluing is stronger than leaning. These things must be distinguished.
What a way to
There
distinguish
was
them.
leaning. Leaning's
Yeah.
just new.
I guess it's just stronger then.
Yeah, it's similar to the other one though.
I think gluing is keeping the swords between yourselves, whereas sticky body is just like sticking your whole body to
I think
them.
it's keeping the swords together.
Gluing is keeping the swords together.
Yeah, but close.
Yeah.
The body blow. The body blow is when you close in on an opponent's side and hit him with your body. Turning your face slightly to the side and thrusting your left shoulder forward, you hit him in the chest. In making the hit, possibly strike, exert as much strength as possible with your body. In making the hit, the idea is to close in with a bound at the moment of peak tension. Once you have learned to close in like this, you can knock an opponent several yards back. It is even possible to hit an opponent so hard that he dies. Possibly to strike him too.
Oh god. I bet he forgot about it at this point. He forgot about
Kind
that.
of did. This
Yeah.
requires thorough training and practice.
Yeah, the body blow is kind of insane because that's what Mina Uchi is, where you hit him with like the blunt side of the sword.
Oh,
So that's
yeah.
for power strikes rather than like precision slashing.
3 parries. When you attack an opponent, in order to parry the blow of the opponent's sword, making as if to stab him in the eyes, you dash his sword to your right with your sword, thus parrying it. There is also what is called the stabbing parry, making as if to stab the opponent in the right eye, with the idea of clipping off his neck. You parry the opponent's striking sword with stabbing thrust. Also, when an opponent strikes and you close in with a shorter sword, without paying so much attention to the parrying sword, you close in as if to hit your opponent in the face with your left hand. These are the 3 parries. Making your left hand into a fist, you should think of it as if you were punching your opponent in the face. This is something that requires thorough training and practice.
Yeah. So yeah,
How's-
very cool.
Yeah. How did the parry work?
The parry is it's just describing a general action of a parry, and the stabbing parry is you parry by like, I think what he's saying is that you just go to stab him in the face so that he interrupts his own strike to block it.
Oh, interesting. That's an interesting
Which
technique.
yeah, that works.
Yeah.
It's technically a parry even if you just psych them out.
I think all of these are described that way.
What, to psych them out or as a parry?
Yeah, yeah. None of them are like a typical parry.
Well, some of these aren't even parries. Most of these
None
aren't
of them
parries
are.
actually.
I
Oh, the
think
3
all three-
parries. Oh wait.
Yeah,
I was-
all 3 of them I think are about basically trying to stab him first to make him interrupt.
The first one, the stabbing. Wait, okay, the first one is the stabbing parry.
Yeah.
The
The
second,
second one is also.
Wait a minute. Okay. Wait, what?
Yeah, that's why I was confused.
He doesn't even list them. There's one called the stab. Okay, wait. Okay, the
When you
first
attack
one.
an opponent, in order to parry the blow of the opponent's sword, make as if to stab him in the eyes.
Okay, that's the first
There
one.
is, there's also what is called the stabbing parry, making as if to stab him in the eye.
Okay, yeah, yeah. That's yeah. That can get pretty confusing.
And then third, when an opponent strikes, you close in as if you're to hit your opponent in the face with your hand. That one is a little different,
That one's a little different. You're punching him, yeah.
but it's still an attack.
I guess. So yeah, 3 parries. You're just psyching them out.
Yeah,
Like
two of them are
actual
the
Jedi
same.
parries.
True, yeah.
Alright, this next part's getting some fucking
I wonder if
Sekiro.
Lucas read this as the.
He absolutely did.
Yeah, he probably did.
Alright, this next one's gonna be some fucking Sekiro shit.
Oh, stabbing in the face. Nice. How
Yeah, alright,
appropriate.
stabbing the face. When you're even with an opponent, it is essential to keep thinking of stabbing him in the face with the tip of your sword in the intervals between the opponent's sword blows and your own sword blows. When you have the intention of stabbing your opponent in the face, you'll try to get both his face and his body out of the way. When you can get your opponent to shrink away, there are various advantages of which you can avail yourself to win. You should work this out thoroughly. In the midst of battle, as soon as an opponent tries to get out of the way, you have already won. Therefore, it is imperative not to forget about the tactic of stabbing the face. This should be cultivated in the course of practicing martial arts. And then,
He does like that tactic.
fucking bro, if it works. Stabbing the heart. Stabbing the heart is used when fighting in a place where there's no room for slashing, either overhead or to the sides, so you stab the opponent. To make the opponent's sword miss you, the idea is to turn the ridge of your sword directly towards your opponent, drawing it back so the tip of the sword does not go off kilter, and thrusting it into the opponent's chest. This move is especially for use when you are tired out or when your sword will not cut. It is imperative to be able to discern expertly.
Fancy.
Should we move on, or should we just talk about stabbing for a bit?
We should. Why don't we talk about the stabbing and then blow the blows?
Alright, so for the stabbing, what do you think?
He really does like the stab in the face technique.
He really does. Which, that directly ties into Sekiro's combat.
Yeah.
Where, so Sekiro is, instead of, slashing and they have a health meter, basically, like, every attack is guarded until they're worn down, at which point you either stab them in the face or stab them in the heart.
Really interesting.
Yeah, so basically tire them out, and then find the opening, and then stab one of the 2 places he likes.
Yeah. This move is especially for use when you're tired out.
Yeah.
It does that. I haven't played Sekiro.
It's alright.
It's FromSoft.
Yep. And I say that as someone who's 100%ed every other FromSoft game, minus Bloodborne.
I haven't played any of them actually.
Fuck you, bro. Content.
Does Armored Core count?
Yes, it does, actually.
Oh, well, there you go.
Oh, easy. Which one did you play?
None of them yet. That's what I was going to.
Yeah, start with the PSP ones. They're funny.
Oh, okay. I was going to start with the new one. If it's...
Actually, I don't think it's like an order, because the new one's like...
The new one said its own thing, yeah.
Yeah, of course it is. I want connected video games. I want to gatekeep my favorite lore franchise.
Yeah, some of them at least are.
Yeah. Alright,
Is this one on you still?
Yeah, I'll finish the page.
Okay.
The cry. The cry and a shout are used whenever to launch an attack and to overcome an opponent, and the opponent also strikes back, coming up from below as if to stab the opponent. You can strike a counterblow. In any case, you strike with a cry and a shout in a rapid succession. The idea is to thrust upward with a cry and then strike with a shout. This move is one that can be used anytime in a duel. The way to cry and shout is to raise the tip of the sword with the sense of stabbing, then slashing all at once, immediately upon bringing it up. The rhythm must be practiced well and examined carefully. The sound just throws them off. That's a huge thing in Chinese combat.
Yeah, what's the difference between a cry and a shout?
Cry is from the throat, shout is from the chest.
I see.
So cries are typically higher pitched.
Yeah.
Then the slapping parry. This one's crazy. This one I'll go off on in a sec. Slapping parry. When you are exchanging blows with an opponent in a duel, you hit the opponent's sword with your own sword as he strikes. This is called the slapping parry. The idea of the slapping parry is to not hit particularly hard nor to catch and block, responding to the opponent's striking sword. Hit the striking sword, then immediately strike the opponent. It is essential to be the first hit, or it is essential to be the first to hit and the first to strike. If the rhythm of your parrying blow is right, no matter how powerfully an opponent strikes, as long as you have any intention at all of hitting, the sword tip will not fail. This must be learned by practice and carefully examined. Okay, so a bit different than I thought it was. So the slapping parry is just like to get like to open them up, to get their sword out of the
Yeah.
way. But once again, in Chinese combat, typically I think it's with both one-handed swords and pole arms, like stabs and stuff. But the Chinese have this thing called a flower, which is basically just spinning the weapon really fast. And typically
Yeah.
it's regarded as just like trying to do something to look flashy. But it works as in it's spinning so fast that if it hits a weapon, it's like pretty much gonna knock it out of their hands.
Huh.
So basically it's just like a blender. And it's just like infinite slapping parries basically. Just like a wheel of slapping parries.
Yeah.
And if you spin fast enough, it just works on contact.
Huh. I think I've heard of this one before.
Yeah, there's upward flower, downward flower. I think it's just upward and downward flowers. So downward would obviously smash their weapon into the ground, and upward would be trying to knock it out of their hand.
Yeah. It's hard to counter, I think.
It's pretty fucking hard to counter, unless you meet with like equal force, which is pretty hard because they're using like centripetal force. It's fucking impossible to counter. Like you have to have like two swords, just one to stop the flower and the other one to strike.
Well, fortunately, Musashi does have two swords.
And case in point, slapping parry.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
All right. Well, I'll go through the rest to the end of the just before epilogue, I think.
All right.
A stand against many opponents. A stand against many opponents is when the individual fights against the group, drawing both long and short swords. You hold them out to the left and right, extending them horizontally. The idea is even if opponents come at you from all four sides, you chase them into one place. Discerning the order in which the opponents attack, deal with those who press forward first, keeping an eye on the whole picture. Determining the stands from which opponents launch their attacks, swinging both swords at the same time without mutual interference. It is wrong to wait. The idea is to immediately adopt the ready position with both swords out to the sides, and when an opponent comes forth, to cut in with a powerful attack, overpower him, and then turn right away to the next one to come forth and slash him down. Intent on herding opponents into a line, they seem to be doubling up. When they seem to be doubling up, sweep right in powerfully, not allowing a moment's gap. It'll be hard to make headway if you only chase opponents around in mass. Then again, if you think about getting them one after another as they come forth, you will have a sense of waiting, and so will also have a hard time making headway. The thing is to win by sensing the opponent's rhythms and knowing where they break down. I feel like this is a good use of rhythm.
Yeah, it's very good.
If you get a good group of practitioners together from time to time and learn how to corner them, it is possible to take on one opponent, or 10, or even 20 opponents, with peace of mind. It requires thorough practice and examination. This is if you can take on 10, if you can take on 20.
Yeah, how many people is he taking down at once? Because he talks a lot about beating 10 and 20 people.
Well, these are practiced 20 people.
That's true. But,
But I don't know.
Even then, he talks about taking down 10 men a lot.
He does. He probably did at one point.
Hopefully.
Advantage of dueling. Advantage of dueling means understanding how to win using a longsword according to the laws of martial arts. This cannot be written down in detail. One must realize how to win by practice. This is the use of the longsword that reveals the true science of martial arts. It is transmitted by word of mouth. Okay. Thanks.
Very cool.
The single stroke. This means to gain victory with certainty by the accuracy of a single stroke. This cannot be comprehended without learning the martial arts as well. If you practice this well, you will master martial arts, and this will be a way to attain victory at will. Study carefully.
That's a new one.
Oh, that one was straight up, yeah. The state of direct penetration. The mind of direct penetration is something that is transmitted when one receives the true path of the school of two swords. It is essential to practice well, so as to train the body to this military science. This is transmitted orally.
Very cool.
The penetration is oral.
Alright, so what did we learn from that? Just listen to people, I guess.
He just doesn't want to write this stuff down, I feel.
That's what it sounds like.
He sure wrote a long thing about taking down 10 guys just before this, and then he's like, oh yeah, advantage, I don't know. Ask somebody.
Yeah, just talk to someone. He probably would have linked someone's like YouTube or something if this was written in the modern day.
Maybe, yeah. But yeah, he's clearly proud of the 10 men thing.
Yeah, I guess so. He must have done it.
One can only assume.
Alright, let's get this epilogue. The above is an overall account of the arts of swordsmanship in my individual school, which I have recorded in this scroll. In military science, the way to learn how to take up this longsword and gain victory over others starts with using the 5 formal techniques to learn the 5 kinds of guard position. Then learning how to wield a longsword and gain total freedom of movement, sharpening the mind to discern the rhythms of the path, and taking up the sword oneself. When you are able to maneuver your body and feet however you wish, you beat one person, beat 2 people, and you come to know what is good and what is bad in martial arts. Studying and practicing each item in this book, fighting with opponents, you gradually attain the principles of science. Keeping it in mind at all times, without any sense of hurry, learning its virtues whenever the opportunity arises, taking on any and all opponents in duels, learning the heart of the science, even though it is a path of 1,000 miles, you walk one step at a time. Thinking unhurriedly, understanding that it is the duty of warriors to practice the science. Determine that today you will overcome yourself of the day before. Tomorrow you will win over those of lesser skill, and later you will win over those of greater skill. Practicing in accord with this book, you shall to determine not to let your mind get sidetracked. No matter how many opponents you beat, as long as you can do anything in contravention of training, it cannot be the true path. When this principle comes to mind, you should understand how to overcome even dozens of opponents all by yourself. Once you can do that, you should be able to grasp the principles of large-scale and individual military science by means of power of knowledge of the art of the sword. This is something that requires thorough examination, with 1,000 days of practice for training and 10,000 days of practice for refinement.
Damn.
That's the very Japanese line.
Yeah, you're 10,000 days too early.
10,000 days, that's... Fuck, how long is that? Because 1,000 days is a little over 3 years. So 30 years? Is my math good?
Yeah, 27.39.
That sounds about right. I mean, if you spend 27 years stacking bodies, probably pretty good at
Yeah.
it. Alright, and that was the water scroll.
That was the water scroll.
Alright. Let's see, what time is it? How many scrolls do you want to burn through?
Well, we're at 2. How long is the fire scroll?
We're on fire scroll, third scroll, page 50, starts on page 57, and it goes to page 77, so it's about 20 pages.
Yeah. The whole thing ends actually by page 90.
Page 90 is
then
the emptiness scroll, though.
Yeah, then there's notes, and then there's a...
Oh wait,
Hold
the
on,
emptiness
there's
scroll is really short.
Yeah, so we probably can just finish the whole thing.
Eh, fuck it, we ball, let's go.
What pages were we on?
50, we were on 57.
Yeah, the fire scroll. Alright,
Yeah.
I'll start this one then.
Yeah.
The fire scroll. In the military science of the individual two-sword school, combat is thought of as fire. Matters pertaining to victory and defeat in combat are thought of as a scroll of fire, and so are written down herein. To begin with, people of the world all think of the principles of advantage in martial arts in small terms. Some know how to take advantage of the flick of a wrist using the tips of the fingers. Some know how to win using a fan by a timely movement of the forearm.
That's a Chinese thing. Just
Yeah.
a little interjection.
Then again, using a bamboo sword or something like that, they may just learn the minor advantage of speed, training their hands and feet in this way, concentrating on trying to take advantage of a little more speed. As for my military science is concerned, I have discerned the principles of living and dying through numerous duels in which I have set my life on the line, learning the practice of the sword, getting to know the strength and the weakness of the opponent's sword blows, comprehending the uses of the blade and ridge of the sword, and practicing how to kill opponents. In the course of doing this, little sissy things never even occurred to me. What, like, is that what he's describing the fan technique?
What the fuck? What kind of... That one's on the... I'm putting that one on the translator. There's no way.
Yeah,
That was necessary.
It's probably true, yeah. Especially when one is in full combat gear, one does not think of small things. It probably is.
That's a better translation.
Furthermore, to fight even 5 or 10 people single-handedly in duels with your life on the line and find a sure way to beat them is what my military science is all about. So what is the difference between the logic of one person beating 10 people and 1,000 people beating 10,000 people? This is to be given careful consideration, and he's only told us about it so many times I've considered it.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, it is impossible to collect 1,000 or 10,000 people for everyday practice to learn this science. Even when you are exercising alone with the sword, assess the knowledge and tactics of all adversaries, know the strong and weak moves of adversaries, and find out how to beat everyone by means of knowledge and character of military science, and you will become a master of this path. Who in the world can attain direct penetration of my military science? Training and refining it day and night with the determination to eventually consummate it, after having perfected it, one gains a unique freedom, spontaneously attains wonders, and is endowed with inconceivable powers of penetration. That's certainly a phrase. This is how cosmic law is carried out through martial arts.
Okay, I think the translator's just getting a bit quirky here.
Inconceivable powers of penetration.
Yeah. I don't even have to say a joke for that one.
It just sounds so nice, actually.
It's kind of a powerful statement.
It really is.
So yeah, what the fuck is this scroll about again?
Combat?
Okay, just general combat. Alright.
Yeah. The next one's about styles.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's just a preamble talking about how he's defeated dozens of people at one time.
He's gonna have to drop some names, bro. I don't know if he's really beaten 10 people.
Sources.
You really made
This,
it. the fuck
he's
up.
gonna get community noted.
Please, community readers, add context. Alright. The physical situation. In discerning the lay of the physical situation, there is what is known as positioning yourself with the sun at your back. This means that you take up your stance with the sun behind you. Very informative.
This is smart.
If the situation does not allow you to keep the sun at your back, then you should strive to keep the sun to your right. This also applies indoors, where you should keep the light to your back or to your right. It is desirable to be sure that there is nothing in the way behind you, and that there is plenty of room to your left, taking a stance in such a way that to cut off space to your right and close in. At night also, where you can see your opponents, take your stand with fires to your back and lights to your right, as indicated above. The way he puts that is like there's an image we should be looking at.
Well, he just described it in the left. Yeah, but he just described it.
I don't know. Indicated just feels like it's referring to an image.
Translation, I think.
What a quirky guy, Thomas. Clearly a very quirky guy. Anyway, in order to look down on the enemy, understand that you should take your stand on the highest ground. Even
It's
if it
over,
is
Anakin.
Yeah, slightly elevated. Indoors, the seat of honor should be regarded as the high ground. Anyway, when it comes to battle, the idea is to chase opponents to your left. It is essential to make sure that obstacles are to the rear of your opponents. then chase them into an obstacle any way you can. When you get opponents to an obstacle, in order to prevent them from observing the situation, press your attack without let up so that they cannot look around. Same thing about not letting opponents observe the situation also applies indoors. When you are chasing them into door sills, head jams, doors, screens, verandas, pillars, or other obstacles. In any case, the direction in which you chase opponents should be toward places where the footing is bad or there is obstruction on either side. Use whatever quantities of the setting you can, concentrating on taking advantage of the situation. This is something that calls for careful and thorough reflection and practice.
Both of them, huh?
Really doubled up there.
This
So
one's also very transferable to the modern day too. This is
Yeah.
something that would never change.
it's also very funny because you can discern from this that he's right-handed.
Well, everyone was.
Yeah, so that you can discern that lefties don't exist.
Yeah, they didn't.
Really funny.
I don't know exactly what the reason is that they decided to never went into swordplay or weren't allowed, or they were just killed or forced to train with their right
I
hand.
think because if they went into swordplay, they'd be kind of overpowered.
Yeah, they
'Cause they
probably
just
just didn't.
People would just not know
They
how to
probably
fight
forced
against
them. But you have to consider that this is Japan, and they
This
would
is
have been
Japan.
like, "You're doing that wrong. You have to learn the correct way."
Yeah, that tracks too. I don't know. I think it's a mixture of both because lefties are really hard to deal with.
Yeah, I'm not sure. One of my favorite anecdotes about this is that the word in English "sinister" comes from the Latin word "sinistra," which means left-handed, because
Oh, yeah.
left-handed people were devil children.
Fuck, I don't know. I wouldn't go that far, but like they're
That's
pretty
what they
tough.
considered them as in the Middle Ages.
Pretty tough to deal with.
Maybe that was why. I actually don't know the context for it.
Probably because I mean, at least in the Middle Ages, a left-handed person with a dagger is fucking really effective.
Kind of broken, yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. All right, you're on a 3 preemption.
Three preemption. There are 3 kinds of preemption. One is when you preempt by attacking an opponent on your own initiative. This is called preemption from a state of suspension. Another is when you preempt an opponent making an attack on you. This is called preemption from a state of waiting. Yet another is when you and an opponent attack each other simultaneously. This is called preemption in a state of mutual confrontation. Yeah, okay. I was just... Two of them sounded similar.
They kind of, yeah.
Suspension and, what was the other one? Waiting. Yeah, they sounded similar.
Yeah.
These are the 3 ways of preemption. At the beginning of any battle, there are no other choices but these 3 initiatives. Since it is a matter of gaining victory quickly by preemption, therefore preemption is the foremost concern in martial arts. There are many details involved in preemption, but they cannot be fully written down because it is a matter of putting priority on the pattern of a particular time, perceiving the intention of your opponents, and using your knowledge of martial arts to win. First, there is the preemption from a state of suspension. When you want to attack, you remain calm and quiet, then get the jump on your opponent by quickly attacking suddenly and by outwardly. What? I read it wrong.
Take your time. Take your
Get
time.
the jump on your opponent by attacking suddenly and quickly. Here we go. You can preempt by being outwardly powerful and swift while inwardly leaving reserves. You can also get the jump by steeling your mind to the utmost, accelerating your pace a bit, and making a violent attack the instant you get up close to the opponent. You can also win by letting your mind go free, determining to beat your opponent at the same thing from start to finish, gaining victory by thoroughgoing strength of heart. All of these are examples of preemption from a state of suspension. Second is a preemption from a state of waiting. When an opponent comes at you, you do not react, but appear to be weak. Then, when the opponent gets near, you spring away with a powerful leap, almost as if you were flying. Then when you see the opponent slack, you forcefully overcome him straight away. This is one way of preemption. Also, when an opponent attacks and you aggressively meet the attack, the moment you sense a chance in the rhythm of the opponent's attack, you can gain victory right then and there. This is the principle of preemption from a state of waiting. Third is the preemption in the state of mutual confrontation. In case an opponent attacks swiftly, you attack calmly yet powerfully. When the opponent gets close, tighten your bearing with absolute resolve. And when the opponent shows signs of slacking, overcome him with force immediately. Then again, when an opponent attacks calmly and quietly, accelerate your own attack slightly, with your body lightly buoyant. When the opponent gets close, clash once and then, adapting to his condition, overcome him forcefully. This is preemption in the state of mutual confrontation. These moves are hard to write about in great detail. They should be worked out along the general lines of the moves written down here. These three ways of preemption depend upon the time and logic of the situation. Even though you are not to be always the one to attack, if it amounts to the same thing, you'd rather take the initiative and put the opponents on the defense. However it may be, the idea of preemption is gaining certain victory through power of knowledge of martial arts. It must be cultivated and refined very thoroughly.
All right. So
It's almost like a cowboy-style quick draw.
yeah, it's just like how to counter their movements, basically.
Yeah, you should be ready to draw first, basically.
Yeah.
What were the three types?
I don't know if it's directly quick draw, but just like in a straight gunfight, I think the counterpart would be like get them to run out of ammo first or something.
Yeah, from a state of waiting.
Yeah, so like if you're behind cover, try to, if you think they're gonna just open fire, just get behind cover, let them waste their ammo,
Yeah,
and blast them.
if they have a FAMAS, you can hear when they're out of ammo.
That's really funny, and I'll never get over that. I'll never forgive the French for that shit. It's really fucking hilarious.
Well, they never really use them. They usually end up on sale on auction sites for never fired, dropped once.
Yeah, for quickly for chat and the VOD watchers. So the FAMAS fires in 3-round bursts. However, its magazine is not divisible by 3. So there's a loud ass click when you run out of ammo that everyone can hear.
I think the last round is 2.
Last round's 2? Okay, so yeah. Loud ass
yeah.
clicks. So everyone knows you're out of ammo.
I believe it was designed as the advantage of you would know when you're out of ammo. Cons, so does the enemy.
Yeah, everyone knows you're out of ammo, bozo. Everyone point and laugh at the guy who ran out.
Yeah, I think they just eventually redesigned it so they didn't have that problem on later iterations.
But how did they fix it?
I think they stopped using them after that too. So
How did they fix it? Just adding another bullet?
the clips are larger. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So fucking French people.
Yeah, the goofy French, huh?
Yeah. Alright,
This
holding
is
my
you, yeah.
oh, yeah, okay. Holding down the pillow. Holding down the pillow means not letting someone raise his head. In martial arts, in the course of dueling, it is bad to be maneuvered around by others. It is desirable to move around opponents freely, by whatever means you may. Therefore, opponents will be thinking along these lines, and you too have this intention, but it is impossible to succeed in this without comprehending what others are doing. Martial arts includes stopping an opponent's striking blows, arresting his thrusts, tearing away his grips. Oh, that's it. Holding down the pillow means that when you have attained my science in reality and are engaged with an opponent, whenever the opponent evinces any sign of intending to make a move, you perceive it before he acts. Stopping an opponent's attack at the initial outset, not letting him follow through, is the sense of holding down the pillow. For example, you inhibit an opponent's attack from the letter A, so to speak. You inhibit an opponent's leap from the letter L, and inhibits an opponent's cut from the letter C. These are all the same idea. I really want to know what the original translation was for that, or what that is in Japanese.
Yeah, I think holding down the pillow is probably an idiom too.
That's definitely. I just want to know how like this one from the letters are done.
Oh, it's the first letter of the word: attack, leap, and cut.
Yeah, I want to know how they translated
So
that.
attack is atari, right?
I
So
would
is it
think.
the ah?
I would. Yeah,
Maybe.
but my guess would be from the first stroke of the kanji,
Oh,
because
maybe.
kanjis have stroke orders.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it'd be from the first stroke of whenever they're writing the kanji.
Writing a kanji is a lot like slashing with a sword.
It
I guess.
really is. I wonder if he gets to that in the Book of Wind or the Wind Scroll.
I don't know.
Alright. Whenever opponents try to attack you, let them go ahead and do anything that is useless. First time I've
Oh,
seen that word
they
since.
did not take his advice.
Yeah. While preventing them from doing anything useful. This is essential to military science. Here, if you consciously try to thwart opponents, you are already too late. First, doing whatever you do to scientifically thwart the opponent's very first impulse to try something, thus foiling everything. To manipulate opponents in this way is mastery of the art of war, which comes from practice. The act of holding down the pillow requires thorough examination.
Go on to the next one too.
Oh, okay. Do you want to talk about holding down the pillow, or we already got it?
Yeah. Other than just, it's probably an idiom.
Stamp it out at the root or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah, nip it in the bud.
Yeah. Very
You just want to stop them before they do anything useful.
yeah.
You let them do useless things, though. That's
Yeah,
That's
you
free.
let them do everything that's useless.
a free action.
Turn loss. Alright. Crossing a ford. When you cross a sea, there are places called straits. Also, places where you cross a sea even 12 or 15 miles wide are called fords. In going through the human world as well, in the course of a lifetime there will be many points that could be called crossing a ford. On the sea lanes, knowing where fords are knowing the state of the boat, knowing the weather, even without launching companion boats, you adapt to the state of the time, sometimes taking advantage of crosswinds, sometimes even getting favorable winds, knowing that even if the wind changes, you can still reach port by oar. You take command of the ship and cross the ford. With that attitude, in passing through the human world, you should also have a sense of crossing a ford in an emergency. In martial arts, in the midst of battle, it is also essential to cross the ford. Sensing the state of opponents, aware of your own mastery, you cross the ford by means of the appropriate principles, just as a skilled captain goes over a sea lane. Having crossed a ford, furthermore, there is peace of mind. To cross a ford, put the adversary in a weak position, and get the jump yourself. Then you will generally quickly prevail. Whether in large-scale military science or individual martial arts, a sense of crossing a ford is essential. It should be savored thoroughly.
What do you mean by human world?
That's what I was gonna ask.
This is the sea, not the human world.
No, I guess not. I mean, humans are not indigenous to the sea.
Captains are not people.
Captains ain't people. The Navy ain't people.
I mean, you might be right.
I guess so. So yeah, crossing a ford is just know your opponent, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it is.
Play into your opponent's weakness.
Probably a good way to describe it, yeah.
Yeah. Alright, you want to do knowing the state of affairs?
Yeah. Knowing the state of affairs. In large-scale military science, knowing the state of affairs means discerning it at the flourishing and decline of the opponent, discerning the intentions of the adversary troop, and perceiving their condition, clearly seeing the state of affairs, determining how to deploy your own troop so as to gain certain victory by the principles of military science, and doing battle with knowledge of what lies ahead. Also, in individual martial arts, determine opponents' traditions, observe the personal character of adversaries, and find out people's strengths and weaknesses, maneuver in ways contrary to opponents' expectations, determine opponents' highs and lows, ascertain the rhythms in between, and make the first move. This is essential. If your own power of insight is strong, the state of affairs of everything will be visible to you. Once you've attained complete independent mastery of martial arts, you'll be able to figure out the minds of opponents, and thus find many ways to win. This demands work. Again, that's kind of note the opponent's weakness.
Yeah, it's literally knowing the state of affairs.
That's the same thing as the last one, really.
Yeah.
Maybe this one's know the opponent's weakness and whatnot, and the other one is like put the opponent in a weak position, right?
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Very cool. Near duplicate sections again.
Yeah.
Alright, stomping a sword. Stomping a sword is a move used only in martial arts. First of all, in large-scale military science, even with bows and guns, when opponents attack you with whatever they have, after they have shot their first volley and are renewing their barrage, it is hard for you to make your attack if you are cocking a bow or loading a gun. The idea is to attack quickly while the enemy is in the process of shooting. The sense of this is that if you attack quickly, it is hard to use arrows against you, hard to shoot you with a gun. The idea is that whatever the opponents attack with, you immediately sense the pattern and gain victory by stomping down anything the opponent does. In the context of individual martial arts as well, if you strike in the wake of an opponent's striking sword, it will turn into clashing, clanging volley of blows, and you will get nowhere. When an opponent lashes out with his sword, you overpower his assault by stomping the sword down with your foot, seeing to it that he cannot strike a second blow. Stomping is not only done with the feet, you should also learn to stomp with your body, stomp with your mind, and of course, stomp with a sword, in such a way as to prevent opponents from making a second move. This means getting the jump on everything. It does not mean randomly hitting an opponent with the idea of settling the contest all at once. It means instantaneous and unyielding follow-up. This should be investigated thoroughly.
Is this similar to holding down the pillow?
It's like holding down the pillow, but just like don't let them do it again.
Yeah, like if they strike once, rather
Yeah.
than
Yeah,
before
so
they
it's
strike.
basically holding down the pillow, but they already did it once, so you just don't let them do it again.
Counter. Yeah,
Yeah.
Fire Emblem style counter.
Oh my gosh, this book is actually like, it makes you realize how terrible of a battle simulator Fire Emblem is.
Well, I think everyone knows that, right?
They should. I hope they do.
Some people actually, people on Reddit actually think that like the weapon triangle's real.
I can understand why they would think
There's
that.
some logic to it.
The where it goes wrong is thinking a lance would be anything.
Yeah.
Cause like
You beat heavily armored guys in Fire Emblem.
it makes sense because like axe beating a lance makes sense because the weight would probably snap the lance. Swords beating axes make
Yeah.
sense because they're more maneuverable. Lances beating swords is just like, it's a little bit longer.
Yeah.
It's kind of long, I guess.
Well, the more important thing is that lances do critical damage to armored troops.
Yeah, because they're for armor piercing.
Well, I mean, they aren't really, but they're kind of, yeah.
I mean, they're for piercing something.
Yeah, but it's not like a rapier, which would make more sense. Although some
Rapier
games do
does
have,
make more
rapiers.
Yeah, a lance is like an unsharpened rapier that needs so much of a run up that you have to put him on a horse.
Yeah, true. And then the one, of course, that's very realistic is that bows take down Pegasus,
That makes sense.
just like real life.
Exactly. I mean, to be fair, I don't think I've seen anything fly after, like anything with wings fly after an arrow stuck through one of them.
I mean, yeah, to be fair, I don't think I've ever seen a Pegasus walk away from that.
I don't think I haven't seen a bird walk away from it. I haven't seen like a fucking bat walk away from it.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen a Pegasus at all, though.
That sounds like a skill issue.
Okay, we'll start the next section here. Knowing disintegration.
Yeah.
Disintegration is something that happens to everything. When a house crumbles, a person crumbles, or an adversary crumbles, they fall apart by getting out of rhythm with the times. Okay, that sounds way deeper than it probably means here.
Yeah, that one's a bit ahead of its time.
It's not, it's the times, like the boss does.
I think that one's on the translator.
Yeah, but this sounds exactly like the boss, almost.
Yeah.
Anyway, in large-scale military science, it is also essential to find the rhythm of opponents as they come apart and pursue them so as not to let openings slip by. If you miss the timing of vulnerable moments, there is the likelihood of counterattack. In individual martial arts, it also happens that an adversary can get out of rhythm in combat and start to fall apart. If you let such a chance get by you, the adversary will recover and thwart you. It is essential to follow up firmly on any loss of poise on the part of an opponent to prevent him from recovering. The follow-up calls for directness and power. It is a matter of lashing out violently and in such a way that an opponent cannot recover. This lashing out must be carefully analyzed. If you do not let go, there is a sense of slovenliness. This is something that requires work. If they get out of tune,
Literally, the last duel in Star Wars Episode 6.
yeah,
Same thing.
I don't remember it well enough.
So
What
that
happens?
was Vader. Oh yeah, spoilers for a fucking 40-something-year-old movie. Um, so it was Vader and Luke, and Vader just fell apart. Like he just didn't want to fight anymore, and Luke just beat
Well,
the
that's
shit
when
out
you
of him.
realize Luke was his son.
Huh?
I mean, that's because Luke is his son.
Yeah. But he still fell out apart. Like he didn't just
Oh,
lose.
yeah.
He didn't just lose. He got his fucking ass handed to him.
Yeah.
So still, it was just one crack. He just didn't feel like it anymore, and then his defense totally dropped, and he just got beat down.
Yeah. I don't remember the Star Wars fights in this much detail.
There's definitely a lot to him.
Is that applied to the prequels as well?
I think more so to the prequels.
Because they have more choreography to them.
Oh, it was crazy. I could go on and on about prequel choreography.
I've seen the original trilogy relatively recently. I have not seen the prequel since I was a kid.
Yeah, the original trilogy's choreography holds up pretty well.
Huh. Other than that, the fight in the very first one, New Hope, with Vader and Obi-Wan.
Even
kinda
that
don't really
one's
fight.
pretty good.
It makes sense because they're not actually really fighting.
And I think have you seen Kenobi?
No.
Okay, so it makes sense because even though Kenobi's an old man, he just beat the shit out of Vader so many times that even as an old man, Vader's like worried and just doesn't want to try anything.
Oh,
Because
huh.
Vader did some flashy moves that got just instantly countered.
Yeah, huh.
He stopped the lightsaber with his hand, and he still got countered. So at
Damn.
that point, he just doesn't want to try anything that's gonna get him killed.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
That's more just a confrontation than an actual fight.
It is, but I think it's also just like Kenobi can't do anything, but Vader's scared of him doing something, so it just turns into like a half fight,
Yeah.
which is a pretty good way to pretty good way to like explain away the technology they use for the sabers.
Yeah, true. Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one was that one?
What?
Disintegration?
Oh yeah, so I'm on becoming the opponent.
You either die a hero or you live long enough to become the villain.
Yeah. Alright, let's see. Becoming the opponent means you should put yourself in the opponent's place and think from the opponent's point of view. As I see the world, if a burglar holes up in a house, he is considered a powerful opponent. From his point of view, however, the whole world is against him. He's holed up in a helpless situation. The one who is holed up is a pheasant, and the one who goes in there to fight it out is a hawk. This calls for careful reflection. In large-scale military science as well, opponents are thought of as powerful and dealt with carefully. When you have good troops, know the principles of martial arts well, and sense the way to overcome an opponent, you need not worry. You should also put yourself in the opponent's position in individual martial arts, where one meets a master of the science, someone who comprehends the martial arts and is good at the science. One thinks one will lose. Consider this well.
Just knowing your enemy, like putting yourself in their shoes.
Basically, the spider is more scared of you than you are of it.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
Letting go of four hands. Letting go of four hands. Yeah?
You want to do the next two? Because it's kind of short.
Okay, sure. Yeah, the next one's short too. Letting go of four hands for when you and an opponent are in a deadlock and no progress is being made in the fight. It means that when you think you are going to get into a deadlock, you stop that right away and seize victory by taking advantage of a different approach. In large-scale military science as well, if there is a total step and no progress is being made, there will be a loss of personnel. It is essential to stop right away and seize victory by taking advantage of a tactic unsuspected by the enemy. In individual martial arts also, if you think you are getting into a deadlock, then it is essential to immediately change your approach, ascertain the opponent's state, and determine how to win by means of a very different tactic. What are the four hands?
Mistranslation.
Letting go four hands?
I don't know. Oh, maybe because
You and the opponent each have hands?
yeah. So, and if you're in a deadlock, you need to let go to go somewhere else. Maybe.
And you need to get them to let go so that they're not on you?
I guess.
Or is this back to the monkey, the short-arm monkey?
I think the monkey's a bit different.
Monkeys have 4 hands.
It'd be closer to. I think this strat is closer to the gluing strat. It's like
no, it's kind of the opposite of it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's when to
You
stop
want to get
gluing. It's the opposite. Yeah, it's the exact opposite of gluing strat.
Yeah, you want to get out of the stalemate and do something else.
Yeah.
This is like when you're locked in a sword fight and nothing's working. Pull out a gun.
Yeah.
He'd never expect that.
I'm pretty sure Musashi's done that. He's got to have done that at some point.
He does talk about guns, so I'm sure.
He did use the gun.
He kind of has mentioned it and said, yeah, guns are for gunners. Moving on.
He also mentioned guns are for inside castle walls.
He did do that. I mean, that one might make sense, I guess, but he kind of just dropped them. Although not as bad as he roasted lances.
Yeah, lances, get out of here. Or no, spears. It was spears. Get him out of here.
Yeah, spears used by lancers.
Get him out of here.
Anyway, moving shadows. Moving shadows is when something you do when you cannot discern what an adversary is thinking. In large-scale military science, when you cannot discern the enemy's state, you pretend to make a powerful attack to see what they will do. Having seen the opponent's methods, it is easy to seize victory by taking advantage of different tactics specially adapted to each case. In individual martial arts also, when an opponent is brandishing his sword behind him or to his side, when he is suddenly about to strike, he shows his intent with his sword. Once it shows perceptibly, you should immediately sense the advantage and know how to win with certainty. If you are inattentive, you will miss the rhythm. This should be examined thoroughly. This is just fake out.
Yeah, juke him. Juke him good. Break his ankles.
Yeah. Simple enough, really.
Yeah. All right. Oh fuck! I see I see hyperlinks.
Yeah. Just ignore them.
All right. Arresting shadows.
You're under
Arresting
arrest.
shadows is something you do when adversaries' aggressive intentions towards you are perceptible. In large-scale military science, this means to arrest the enemy's action at the point of the very impulse to act. If you demonstrate strongly to the opponents how you control the advantage, they will change their minds, inhibited by this strength. You change your attitude too, an empty mind, from which you will take the initiative and seize victory. In individual martial arts as well, you use an advantageous rhythm to arrest the powerful determination of the adversary's motivation. Then you will find the winning advantage in the moment of pause now to take the initiative. This must be worked out thoroughly. Just read them. Read them like it's Smash.
Yeah. Isn't that what the last one, or one of the other ones was?
That was the last one, I think. The last one was like read them and juke them. This one's like read them and stop them.
Yeah. At the point, arrest the action at the point of the impulse.
He just likes putting two very similar things back to back, but in different sections.
I think it's to highlight the differences.
I think the format.
Because
would
one
have
of them
been-
was the other one's more of a fake out. This one is read.
Yeah. I think just the format. I think honestly, it's probably better on an actual scroll.
Maybe because they're side by side.
Yeah.
And two, infection.
I'll do infection. There is infection in everything. Even sleepiness can be infectious, and yawning can be infectious. There is even the infection of a time. In large-scale military science, when adversaries are excited and evidently are in a hurry to act, you behave as though you are completely unfazed, giving the appearance of being thoroughly relaxed and at ease. Do this, and adversaries themselves are influenced by this mood, becoming less enthusiastic. When you think opponents have caught that mood, you empty your own mind and act quickly and firmly, thus gain the winning advantage. In individual martial arts as well, it is essential to be relaxed in body and mind. Notice the movement an opponent slackens, and quickly take the advantage to win. There's also something called entrancing that is similar to infection. Once entrancing mood is boredom, another is restlessness, another is faint-heartedness. This should be worked out thoroughly.
I do like his odd choice of words sometimes. He
Yeah.
uses infection here, and it just means, yeah, just chill.
Yeah, or I think infection is just like whatever attitude you'll take is what they'll take.
Fred, yeah, but then the
Yeah.
advice is to just chill.
I think that works. I would say it's more for just like, if you act like
think it works.
jittery and shit. It's like act on edge. It'll put them on edge.
Yeah, I think this works at least This reminds me of Akio Jimbo again, and I think it's the opposite in that movie. He's the character's really calm, and it frustrates the hell out of everybody else who tries to fight him. And then they go overboard, and then he's able to counter him because he has a clear mind.
Well, it's been 350 years. Maybe people have changed.
Well, maybe it'll come up in another one here soon. See, I'll put it back to back, maybe.
Oh yeah, because the next one is called Upset.
Yeah,
All right, go for it.
I'll do the next two since these are all short.
All right.
And you can do the next two. Do it that way. Upset happens in all sorts of things. One way it happens is through a feeling of being under acute pressure. Another is through a feeling of unreasonable strain. A third is through a feeling of surprise at the unexpected. In large-scale military science, it is essential to cause upset. It is critical to attack resolutely where enemies are not expecting it. Then, while their minds are unsettled, use this advantage to take the initiative and win. In individual martial arts also, I like this phrasing a lot. You appear relaxed at first. Oh yeah, it is, see? And
Yeah.
then suddenly charge powerfully. As the opponent's mind changes pitch, it is essential that you follow what he does, not letting him relax for a moment, perceiving the advantage of the moment and discerning right then and there how to win. This must be investigated diligently. He likes to change his vocabulary.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one is sort of acts common.
Just psychic juking.
Yeah. And otherwise, just take advantage of an upset.
Yeah.
Threat. There is threat in everything. This means being frightened by the unexpected. Even in large-scale military science, threatening adversary is not something right before the eyes. You may threaten by sound, you may threaten by making the small seem large, and you may threaten by making an unexpected move from the side. These are situations in which fright occurs. If you can seize the moment of fright, you can take advantage of it to gain victory. In individual martial arts also, you can threaten by any means of your body, you can threaten by means of your sword, and you can threaten by means of your voice, with the shouts and stuff.
Yeah.
What is essential is to suddenly make a move totally unexpected by the opponent, pick up the advantage of the fight, fright, and seize victory right then and there. This must be worked out thoroughly. Again, pull out a gun.
Again, shit your pants.
How is this different from the other one about?
The other one was like mental energy of just like act a certain way and then do like act a different way. This one's just straight up like do something unexpected, just entirely
scare
out of the
him,
blue.
spook him.
Yeah.
Hit him with the Five Nights at Freddy's.
Hit him with the jump scare, FNAF jump scare. Just do something totally batshit.
Or if I were in a sword fight and the other guy turned into Freddy Fazbear, he'd probably take the advantage on me.
Yeah, probably. I think in this time though, I think it would be like if you keep like a small bag of black powder on you,
Oh yeah, that would work.
and then yeah,
It
that'll
even just says like, you can even just shout at him instead. It seemed like it said.
you could just shout or just keep some like some magic shit like black powder or
Yeah,
whatever
throw
else
it in
you-
their face.
Oh no, I was thinking ignite it.
Well, yeah, that's that too. It's just anything to get him off guard.
Yeah.
So this next one, you
Yeah. Sticking tight.
next two.
Yeah. Sticking tight. Sticking tight means when you're fighting at closer range, you and your adversary each exerting great force against the other. You see that is not going well. You then stick tight to your opponent. The essential point is to take advantage of opportunities to win even as you wrestle together. Whether in large or small scale military science, when you and opponents have taken sides and are facing off and it is not clear who will prevail, right then and there you stick right to the opponents, so that you cannot be separated. And in that process find the advantage, determine how to win, and seize victory powerfully. This is quintessential. This must be studied diligently.
I think the translator is just picking your words.
Yeah. But I think this one is just don't back down. Just like if you just stick on them, you'll win eventually.
Yeah, tenacity.
Yeah. And then coming up against corners means that when you push something that is strong, it hardly gives way immediately, just like that. In large-scale military science, observe the opposing troops. Where they have surged ahead, hit the corner of the strong front, and you should get the advantage. As the corner collapses, everyone gets the feeling of collapse. Even as they are collapsing, it is essential to realize when each corner is ready to go and sense when to overcome it. In individual martial arts too, when you inflict pain on part of his body, each time an opponent makes an aggressive move, his body will weaken by degrees until he is ready to collapse and it is easy to beat him. It is essential to study this carefully to discern where you can win.
He has a very similar phrasing in this section.
Yeah, it's just
In large-scale military science, in individual martial arts, it is essential.
I have a feeling that like there's like the way it's on the scroll would be like it would be a section and then there'd be like the kanji for large scale and it'd be like a comma or a colon and then it'd be that and then it'd be like a kanji for individual and then it'd be like that part.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one is
just keep beating the shit out of him. Don't back down.
he's not using corners in like a cornered beast sense. He's using it in a different way.
I think corner would be like so if like he mentions formations.
Yeah,
Some of that is strong.
Oh,
So if
maybe it is the corner collapsing. It could be a formation.
Yeah, so like you hit the corner where it's just like instead of fighting like a wall of guys, you have to fight 3 because it's the corner. You beat those 3 guys and then it just all falls in.
Yeah.
So corner as in like a
everything starts collapsing and
Yeah,
it's essential to overcome it. Yeah.
corner is just like a point of construction, I guess.
And then when you inflict pain on someone, their body weakens. You
Yeah.
take the advantage of, once you land a hit, you keep taking advantage of it.
Yeah. I guess just like taking out the joints on a machine or something.
Yeah. Okay. Blustering. Blustering opponents means acting in a way as to prevent them from having a steady mind. In large-scale military science, this means that you assess adversaries' minds on the battlefield and use the power of your knowledge of the art of war to manipulate their attention, making them think confusing thoughts about what you're going to do. It means finding a rhythm that will fluster adversaries, accurately discerning where you can win. In individual martial arts as well, you try various maneuvers according to the opportunity of the moment, making the opponent think you are now going to do this, now that, now something else, until you find the opponent starting to get flustered, and thus you win at will. This is the essence of battle. It should be studied very carefully. Kind of a fake out again.
So that's like the other fake out. I would say that's thread, but just like you just keep doing random shit. Just do like a bunch of different things and then until they just give up.
Yeah.
So like you just fucking FNAF jump scare them, light some black powder, do a Fortnite dance, and eventually they'll just stop trying.
The Fortnite dance to do them in.
Yeah.
Imagine the samurai busting out the Fortnite dance.
Dude, that would definitely fluster the
They've
opponent.
never seen anything like that.
They'd just drop dead on the spot.
3 shouts. The 3 shouts are called the initial, middle, and final shout. The essential point is to call out in accord with the situation. Because the shout is forceful, we shout in emergencies like fires and squalls. The voice shows force and power. I've never once called out squall.
What the fuck is a squall?
It's like wind.
Well, shit, bro. Maybe Japan has some crazy winds, or had some crazy winds.
I mean, they probably do. In large-scale military science, at the beginning of battle, the shouting should be as loud as possible. In the course of the battle, the shouting should be low-pitched and booming from the depth, while after victory, the shouting should be loud and strong. These are the 3 shouts. This one feels metaphorical. In individual martial arts, you feint it and shout in order to stir the opponent, then lash out after your cry. You also shout after having struck an opponent down, with a cry signaling victory. These are called before and after shouts. You never shout at the same time as you swing your sword. When you shout in the midst of battle, you use the sound to mount a rhythm, carrying out in a low pitch. We don't have to study that one.
Yeah.
It's
All
pretty
right.
simple.
It just
Doesn't
yeah,
say-
rhythm game.
You next?
Oh yeah, it is me. All right, mixing. In the context of large-scale combat, mixing means that when 2 groups are facing off and your opponents are strong, you attack one of the opponent's flanks, as if to mix in with them. Then, when you see the opponents crumble, you leave off and attack again when they are strong. In a general, the idea is to attack in a winding zigzag. This is also essential in the context of individual martial arts. When you face a group of adversaries single-handedly, each time you have finished one off or driven one off, again you attack a strong one. Finding the opponent's rhythm, zigzagging left and right in a suitable rhythm, observing the condition of the adversary so as to attack effectively. When you have found an enemy's range and are going to cut through, the principle of the advantage is to seize victory forcefully without any reservations. This state of mind also applies to a situation when you are closing in on a powerful opponent in individual combat. The sense of mixing is to plunge right in without any hesitation to your steps. This should be distinguished carefully. Just attack from different angles. Geometry.
Yeah. As if to mix in with them,
I guess?
like get in amongst their ranks.
Probably? That works.
That sounds like the opposite of what you want to do.
I don't know. I'm more concerned when he said against a group of opponents. The way he says attack different ones makes it sound like he was just fucking teleporting around.
And no, it makes it sound like turn-based combat, actually.
It's either turn-based combat or he's just straight up teleporting. It's just like to switch
Do you
targets.
think the
You gotta be
Japanese
fast.
were polite enough to take turns when they attack?
They could have been, or he could just been like insanely fast.
Yeah, maybe both.
Maybe. It's like just to swap targets like that is insane.
I think it like circled around, so you strike one and then you keep turning with it.
I guess, but that would give them time to like reorient.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They must be turn-based combat.
I guess.
I don't know. It seems like it makes more sense in the other group.
A group versus a group, that makes sense, but like
Yeah.
a group versus one guy? What the hell is he doing?
He's really proud of the fact that he wants to 10 guys.
He's really proud that he stacked bodies.
What, he's never gonna let that go. He's collecting it
He
every time.
won't. It's probably gonna be like the last page too.
Remember that time I got 10 guys?
Yeah. Alright, here we go. Crushing. Crushing requires a crushing mood, as when you view an opponent as weak and become strong yourself, thus overwhelming your adversary. In large-scale military science, this means you look down upon an enemy whose numbers are small. Or even if there aren't many of them, or there are many of them, when opponents are demoralized and weakening, concentrate your force on crushing them, thus mowing them down. If your crushing is weak, it can backfire. You have to carefully distinguish the state of mind in which you are fully in control as you crush. In the context of individual martial arts, when your opponent is not as skilled as you are, or when this rhythm is fouled up, or when he starts to back off, it is essential not to let him catch his breath. Mow him right down without even giving him time to blink his eyes. The most important thing is to not let him recover. This should be studied carefully.
I mean, yeah, just crush him.
So you ever
Makes
played the Batman Arkham games?
Have not.
Damn. Have you ever played any beat 'em up?
Define beat him up.
Not Drakengard 3.
Probably not.
Okay, well sometimes the beat 'em ups, like if you like hit an opponent's guard, or it's probably in other games, but like if you hit an opponent's guard enough, there'll be like a symbol above their head. And at that point you just mash, it's just like a beatdown.
Like in Metal Gear Rising?
Kind of? Yeah, that works. So basically just like once you get them into a vulnerable state, you can just fucking beat the shit out of them.
Yeah, okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what game has like a guard break state, but I can't think of one.
That one does, but it's more
Oh.
scripted.
You know what game has a guard break state?
Hmm.
Hyperdimension Neptunia.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, so you know when you break down the blue meter?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crushing. That's,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this part made sense. But, yeah.
Yeah.
Mounted and sea changing. Mounted and sea means that it is bad to do the same thing over and over again. Just like in the Yakuza games when they punish you for doing the same beat action.
Yeah.
You may have time to repeat something once, but it should not be done a third time. When you try something on an opponent, if it does not work the first time, you will not get any benefit out of rushing to do it again. Change your tactics abruptly, doing something completely different. If that still does not work, then try something else. Thus, the science of martial arts involves the presence of mind, to act as the sea when the enemy is like a mountain, and to act as a mountain when the enemy is like a sea. This requires careful reflection. I mean, actually, now that you mention it, these are kind of applicable to fighting games.
Yeah, I guess they
They're
are.
just like fighting in games, not fighting games.
Yeah, fuck fighting
Probably
games.
that too.
But yeah,
Just just do counter, and
counterpick.
then whatever, like in Guilty Gear.
Yeah, just straight up counterpick it.
Yeah. Knocking the heart out. When you fight with an adversary and appear to win by your skill in this science, your opponent may still have ideas and, while appearing to be beaten, still inwardly refuse to acknowledge defeat. Knocking the heart out is for such cases. This means that you suddenly change your attitude to stop the enemy from entertaining any such ideas. The main thing is to see that adversaries feel defeated from the bottom of their hearts. You can knock the heart out of people with weapons, or with the body, or with your mind. It is not to be understood in just one way. When your enemies have completely lost heart, you do not have to pay attention to them anymore. Otherwise, you remain mindful. As long as adversaries still have ambitions, they will hardly collapse. In both large and small-scale martial arts, knocking the heart out of something should be practiced thoroughly. You can just defeat them.
Just make them sad.
Yeah, you can just defeat them once by making them give up.
Yeah. Pretty simple.
Yeah.
Alright, becoming new. When fighting with enemies, if you get to feeling snarled up and are making no progress, toss your mood away and think in your heart that you are starting everything anew. As you get the rhythm, you discern how to win. This is becoming new. Anytime you feel tension and friction building up between yourself and the others, if you change your mind that very moment, you can prevail by advantage of radical difference. This is becoming new. In large-scale military science, it is essential to understand becoming new. It is something that suddenly appears through power and knowledge of martial arts. This must be well considered.
This is how to counter the previous point.
Yeah, pretty much. Just hit refresh.
Yeah, so they don't knock the heart out of you.
Yeah. Alright, small and large. When you are fighting adversaries and get to feeling snarled up in petty maneuvers, remember this rule of military science. Well, in the midst of minutiae, suddenly you shift to a large perspective. Changing to great or small is an intentional part of the science of the art of war. It is essential for warriors to seek this even in the ordinary consciousness of human life. This mentality is crucial to military science, whether large or small scale. This concern should be getting careful. Can we just cut this? Can we start cutting this?
What do you mean?
Just start
when you say that,
yeah.
that's the best part. I look forward to that every time.
Alright, I won't cut it. This is just like, think of the big picture.
Yeah. But don't lose sight of the small picture too, I guess.
Just change your perspective when one doesn't work out.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll read the next three and you can make the epilogue.
Oh, bet.
A commander knowing soldiers. A commander knowing soldiers is a method always practiced in the times of conflict, after having reached the mastery to which one aspires. Having attained the power and the knowledge of the arts of war, you think of your adversaries as your own soldiers, understanding that you should do with them as you wish, intending to manipulate them freely. You are the commander, the opponents of the troops. This takes work. Huh? Just throw your own guys into the grinder?
There's no, it's know who to throw into the grinder.
Oh, okay. But still, it seems not... I guess it makes sense. But he, like, says the opponent... You're the commander, the opponents of the troops.
Well, he's a lot of the sections have been talking about manipulating them. So if you're that good at manipulating, you can just... They're basically your own guys.
Oh, he means it that way. I thought he meant your own guys are like the opponent.
No, it's the other way around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you need to know the enemy like you know your own.
Yeah.
Sort of. Letting go of the hilt. Letting go of the hilt has various meanings. It has the meaning of winning without a sword, and it also has the meaning of failing to win with a sword. The various different senses cannot be written down, but call for thorough training and practice. That one didn't have anything to it.
Yeah, just wait for the next one.
Becoming like a rock wall. Becoming like a rock wall is when a master of martial arts suddenly becomes like a rock wall. Gee. Inaccessible to anything at all, immovable. This is transmitted by word of mouth. Thank you, that was so helpful.
Just don't don't move.
Just stonewall him.
Literally cast stone flesh. Easy.
Yeah.
Alright, epilogue. What is written above consists entirely of things that constantly come to mind in the course of practicing the art of swordsmanship of my individual school. Because I am now writing these principles down for the first time, they are somewhat mixed up in terms of order, and it is hard to define them in detail. Nevertheless, they can be guidelines for people who are supposed to learn the science. I have concentrated on martial arts since youth, training my hands and body to the mastery of swordsmanship, getting into all sorts of various states of mind. What I see on inquiry into other schools is that some are pretentious talkers, and some perform fancy maneuvers with their hands. Even though they may look good to people, there is surely no true heart there at all. Of course, it may seem as if people are training body and mind even when they are practicing such things, but they become sicknesses of the path, persistent and hard to get rid of. They are bases of the decay of the straight path of martial arts in the world, and of the abandonment of the way. For the art of swordsmanship to be a real science, such as to win victory at battle of adversaries, no change whatsoever is to be made in these principles. When you attain the power of knowledge of my military science and put it into practice in a straightforward manner, there can be no doubt of victory.
Now he's going to go off about the other schools in the wind scroll.
Yeah. Wind scroll.
This is more of a history one. Probably less to analyze.
Probably.
The wind scroll. Military science involves the knowledge of the methods of other schools. Here in this wind scroll, I have written about the other schools of martial arts. Unless you know the ways of other schools, you certainly cannot understand the way of my individual school. What I see on inquiry into other martial arts is that some schools use large, long swords and concentrate on power in their moves. Some practice their science using a short sword that they call a little long sword. I think that's Hachi. Something
Yeah.
Hachi. There are also schools that contrive many moves with the long sword, calling the positions of the sword the formal techniques and transmitting the science to the inner teaching. In this scroll, I will clearly expose the fact that none of these are the real way, and thus let it to be known what is good and what is bad, what is true and what false. The principle of my individual school is something distinctly different. Other schools become theatrical, dressing up and showing off to make a living, commercializing martial arts. Therefore, it would seem they are not the true way. Furthermore, martial arts are conventionally viewed in a limited way, as if it consisted only of swordsmanship. Do you think you have realized how to attain victory just by learning to wield the longsword and training your body and hands? This is not a certain way in any case. I have exposed each point of the deficiencies of other schools in this book. The point is to examine carefully and savor thoroughly to come to an understanding of the advantages of the individual school of two swords. He's really talking up his school, huh?
Yeah, I guess. He's just about to body the other schools.
They're not the true way.
Yeah. This one might not be history.
It might actually just be roasting.
It might be. Let's find out. On wielding extra long swords in other schools. There are some other schools that are fond of extra long swords. From the point of view of my martial art, I see them as weak schools. The reason for this is that these other schools do not know about prevailing over others by any means necessary. Considering the length of the sword, its virtue, they must want their swords to be extra long so that they can beat opponents from a distance. The conventional saying about winning by even an inch in reach is something that refers to people who know nothing about martial arts. Therefore, to try and win from a distance by an advantage in sword length without knowing the principles of martial arts is something that people do because of weakness of heart. That is why I consider this a weak martial art. At times when you are engaged with an opponent at close quarters, the longer your sword is, the harder it is to strike with it, and you cannot swing the sword back and forth enough, and it becomes a burden. Then you are in a worse situation than someone who is wielding a small sidearm sword. For those who prefer extra long swords, they have their own reason, but it is logical for themselves alone. from the point of view of the real way of the world, it is illogical. Will you necessarily lose if you use a shorter longsword and not an extra longsword? And suppose that the physical situation is such that above, below, and or the sides are blocked. Or suppose the social situation is one where only sidearms are worn. To wish for an extra longsword under these conditions is a bad attitude, because it is to doubt the science of martial arts. Furthermore, there are people who lack the requisite physical strength. Since ancient times, it has been said that the great includes the small. So it is not a matter of indiscriminately disliking length, it is a matter of disliking the attitude of bias in favor of length. In the context of a large-scale military science, an extra longsword is a large contingent, a shorter one is a small contingent. Is a battle between small and a large contingent even possible? There are many examples of a small contingent winning over a large contingent. Thus, in my individual school, there is an aversion to a narrow, biased attitude. This calls for careful consideration.
He probably doesn't like guns because they attack from a distance. There's no skill to them, he'd say.
He hasn't mentioned guns in a while. That's a very
He
good
probably
point.
just doesn't like them.
I guess not. He also doesn't like extra longswords either.
No, he doesn't. This is why he doesn't like spears.
Yeah, they're just unwieldy. To be fair, they are kind of unwieldy as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a reason that the longsword is like a standard, fairly standard length. It's sort of perfected over time.
Yeah, that's why they were used in Europe, whereas mostly like, you know, Great Plains and shit, not fucking the tight, tiny spaces of Japan.
Well, the katanas are similar length to a European longsword too.
Oh, is it a weight diff then?
What do you mean?
Because I would assume European longswords are way heavier.
They're better steel.
Yeah. So the katanas were probably used in Japanese open areas, but that's also why they had like 700 different sidearms.
Yeah, and katanas were curved and sharp on one side. They were designed for slashing primarily, whereas European swords were also used for stabbing, which is very rare for katana.
Yeah, katana stabs only work against unarmored opponents, I think.
Yeah, he mentions it because I think the combat in his time was primarily unarmed people, because I think he was during the Edo period. But during the Sengoku period where everyone was armed, it was very rare to use a katana for stabbing.
Yeah.
And honestly, they'd break if you tried that most of the time.
Yeah, because katanas are not the strongest steel.
No, they're known commonly to break during combat.
That's kind of funny.
It's pretty funny. That's part of the reason they carry two swords.
The two swords, a gun, a fucking halberd.
A bow, not a spear though, those suck.
Yeah, spears are terrible.
Alright.
Alright.
Powerful sword blows in other schools. There should be no such thing as strong sword blows or weak sword blows. A swing of the sword made with this intention to swing powerfully is rough, and you can hardly win by roughness alone. Furthermore, if you slash with unreasonable force when you are going to kill someone, intending to deal a powerful blow with a sword, you will not be successful. Even when you are making a test cut on a dummy or something, it is wrong to deliberately slash powerfully. When facing an enemy in Mortal Kombat, I love that game. Nobody thinks of striking weakly or powerfully. When one only thinks of killing the other, there is no sense of strength, and of course, no sense of weakness. One only thinks about the death of the enemy. If you hit someone else's sword strongly using an extra powerful swing, it will turn out badly because of excessive force. If you hit someone else's sword forcefully, your own sword will be delayed. So there's no such thing as a particularly powerful sword blow. Even in large-scale military science, if you have a powerful contingent wishing to gain a forceful victory in battle, the fact is that your opponent also has powerful people and wants to fight forcefully. In that respect, both are the same. When it comes to winning victory in everything, it is impossible to prevail without losing. In my school, no consideration is given to anything unreasonable. The heart of the matter is to use the power of the knowledge of martial arts to gain victory any way you can. This must be worked out thoroughly. He talked about this before.
Yeah, he did.
You don't want to go too strong or too light because it'll screw up your attack technique.
He gives different reasons though, because like, so the last time we mentioned it, going too hard makes you lose control, whereas this one, it'll just like stun lock you, I guess.
Well, That's just more reasons why you want to do it. Not do it that way.
I guess, but
So
in
you want to do it properly.
other countries have, if you swing super hard and deliberately hit someone's weapon, that was a technique to knock it out of their hands.
Well, as long as yours is heavier enough and you don't lose yourself.
Yeah. But yeah,
I mean, Europe has more variation in weaponry too.
Yeah, that's another thing. Because here's the thing: it's very general. As if you hit someone else's sword strongly, it'll turn out badly. It's very vague. Because I don't think he want to say his sword broke.
Yeah, no, I got that. I picked up on that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, like European swords, there's so many of them because they had so many different types. Whereas in Japan, they had pretty much just katanas, and then they had hachis, which were just katanas, but it was somehow backwards.
Yeah.
Like, I think this might just be a cultural thing that the Japanese were like, this is the one and only way to do combat, so therefore we must all keep to the same standards.
Yeah.
Whereas in
much.
Europe, it was just innovate to win.
It really says a lot about how things turned out.
I mean, Japan is kind of like that now, aren't they?
Yeah. The use
Yeah.
of shorter longswords in other schools.
Oh no, he talked about the long ones, now short ones.
Alright, let's go.
He's literally saying it's not how big or how small it is.
It's
how you
literally
use
not,
it.
size literally doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Alright,
unless it's average.
I get, average is the way to go, I guess.
Yeah,
I
I mean, yeah.
To think of winning by means of a shorter longsword alone is not the true way. Since ancient times, long and short swords have been distinguished in terminology. Physically powered people can wield even a large sword with ease, so there's no point in unreasonable fondness for a shorter sword. Reason for this is that spears and halberds are also carried to make use of their length. The idea that you are going to use a shorter longsword to cut through, plunge in, and seize an opponent in the interval between swings of a sword is biased and therefore wrong. Furthermore, when you watch out for the gaps, everything else is neglected. There comes to be a sense of entanglement which is to be avoided. If you try and use a short weapon to penetrate the enemy's defense and take over, it will not be of any use in the midst of numerous opponents. Even if you think that what you gain from a shorter weapon is the ability to cut through a sword, leap freely, and whirl around, in which each case you are in a defensive mode of swordplay, and are thus in a distracted state of mind. This is not a reliable way to go. You might as well just chase people around in a powerful and straightforward manner, making people jump out of the way, contriving to throw them into confusion, taking the route that aims solely at certain victory. This logic also applies to large-scale military science. All else being equal, you might as well take a large contingent, attack the enemy all of a sudden, and destroy them at once. This attitude is the focus of military science. What people of the world ordinarily study when they practice martial arts is to parry, deflect, get away, and get it through safely. They don't have L's in Japan, it's not my fault. Therefore, their minds are drawn by this method and wind up being maneuvered and manipulated by others. Since the way of martial arts is direct and straightforward, the intent to stalk and overcome people rightly is essential. This should be considered carefully. He didn't really talk about this sword that much in that one.
He just said they'll get too distracted trying to make up for the advantages of the small sword.
So I guess he just said don't think about it too much.
You don't want to be thinking about it too much. You want us to be, reflexive and keep saying if you have a small sword, there's too many. It's like useful only in niche applications.
So I guess just don't dwell on the small sword, I guess.
Don't use it. Because you have to dwell on it to use it.
Don't rely on it. Because his technique did use a small sword in his left
did
hand.
Use a small sword, yeah. But this is like saying using it as your sole weapon.
Yeah.
This is not a reliable way to go. I do like that phrase.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it literally is averages the way.
I guess so.
Confirmed by many polls.
Yeah.
Numerous sword strokes in other schools. When an excessive number of sword moves are taught, it must be to commercialize the art and impress beginners with knowledge of many moves of the sword. This attitude is to be avoided in military science. So clearly at his time there were a lot of schools that were like for hire.
Yeah.
And he's talking about how they're just like, take your money. They're not real. Anyway, the reason for this is that it is a delusion to think that there are all sorts of ways of cutting people down. In the manner of cutting people down, there are no different ways within the world. Whether or not one is knowledgeable, and even if one is a woman or child, there are not so many ways to strike and cut. If there are variants, there are no more than stabbing and slashing. To begin with, since the point is killing, there is no reason for there to be a large number of ways to do it. Even so, depending on the situation, according to events, in such cases where there is obstruction in the surroundings, such as above or to the side, there have to be 5 positions so that there is a way to wield the sword without getting stuck. To add anything else, things like cutting an opponent down, the twist of the hand, a twirl of the body, or a leap of distance are not the true way. To cut someone down, you cannot cut them down by twisting or twirling. These are useless things. Uh-oh.
Damn.
In military science, it is essential that the physical aspects and the mental state both be simple and direct, gaining victory by causing opponents to strain disorientedly and go off kilter, causing the hearts of adversaries to keep twisting and twirling. This should be examined carefully.
Just don't do useless things.
Yeah, he really does like to say that.
Yeah.
Just slash them.
Just bare minimum.
Yeah.
Alright, positions of the sword and other schools. It is wrong to concentrate solely on the guard position of the sword. Whenever there are guard positions in the world, it must be when there are no opponents. The reasoning behind this is that to set up standard rules as customary standards or current rules is not feasible in the course of actually contesting for victory. The thing is to contrive to put the adversary at a disadvantage. Whatever the point of reference, the adoption of a guard position has the sense of making use of immovability. To guard a castle, or to array a battle line in a defensive position, has the sense of being strong and unaffected even under attack. This is the normal meaning. In the course of struggle or victory by military science, the thing is to concentrate on seizing the initiative and getting the jump on others in everything. The sense of guard or defensive posture is that of awaiting the initiative. This should be worked out thoroughly. In the course of struggle for victory by military science, you win by disrupting others' defenses, by making moves of opponents do not expect, by confusing opponents, or irritating them, or scaring them, sensing the pattern of rhythm when opponents get mixed up to seize victory. Thus, there is an aversion to the defensive attitude involved in the concern with guard positions. Therefore, in my science, there is what's called having a guard without a guard, meaning that one has the defense without being defensive. In large-scale military science also, the main concern for a high-pitched battle is to learn how many troops the adversary has, note the lay of the battleground, know the state of your own troops, marshal their best qualities, rally them, and then only then start to fight. There is a totally different feeling in being attacked by others first than attacking others yourself. The sense of being able to wield a sword well, enough to catch and parry an opponent's blows, is tantamount to taking your spear and halberd and sticking them in the ground as fence posts. What? When you are going to strike an adversary, in contrast, you can even pull up a fence post and use it as you would a spear or halberd. This is something that should be examined carefully.
It should be very carefully. What is he talking about?
What the fuck is bro waffling about?
He's basically just saying, I think, that best defense is a good offense.
He's saying that I think he's pulling from the water scroll here.
Yeah, because he's like, when he talked about parries earlier, the parries weren't even like actual defense. It was just strike by stabbing them.
Yeah. And
But
then
I think maybe he dueled people primarily, right?
yeah.
And in all the duels, it's like, it's over as soon as you strike them. So there's really no chance to deflect. You just want to get the first strike in, and then you win.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just like there is no such thing as defending. Just, if you're going to defend, you might as well stick your sword in the ground. Might as well
I guess
die.
so. And then also, you can even pull up a fence post and use it as you would a spear or halberd.
Yeah.
Literally, just don't buy a spear or halberd. Just pull a fence post out.
Yeah. F fear users.
Yeah, they're
Users
not
were
real.
never the same after the was dropped.
They're literally not real. Spears are
But yeah,
not meta.
yeah, yeah. I think he basically just means the best defense is a good offense,
Yeah.
and probably the other schools are using defense to like show off.
Yeah, probably.
The focus of the eyes in other schools. You get to do the footwork again.
Oh yeah.
The focus of the eyes depends on the school. There are those who fix their eyes on the opponent's sword. There are also those who fix their eyes on the opponent's hand. There are also those who fix their eyes on the opponent's face. And there are also those who fix their eyes on the opponent's feet, and so on. When you try to fix your eyes on some particular point, there is a sense of distraction, and this becomes what is known as affliction in martial arts. People playing football may not keep their eyes on the ball. They have football? Really?
Bro, it's kicking a rock around. How could they not have it?
I mean, I guess that's true, yeah. They can. I'm just wondering if that's like European colonial influence, because that has happened before at some point.
I think it is.
Yeah. Anyway, um, man, if keep their eyes on the ball, they can still steal it away with a kick and dribble it around. Because when one is thoroughly practicing something, it is not necessary to look deliberately. In the art of jugglers, too, when they are practicing the techniques, they can balance a door on the nose and juggle several swords at once, all without deliberately watching. Since they're involved in practice all the time, they see what is going on spontaneously. In the context of the science of martial arts as well, when you become familiar with these adversaries, perceive the degree of seriousness of people's minds, and are able to practice the science effectively, you can see even the distant conceit of the sword. Generally speaking, the focus of the eyes in martial arts is on the hearts and minds of the people involved. When it comes to large-scale military science, the eyes are also focused on the state of the opposing troops. Of two ways of perception, observing and seeing, the observing eye is stronger, perceiving the heart and mind of the adversary, seeing the state of the situation, focusing the eyes broadly, perceiving the conditions for battle, perceiving the strength and weakness of the occasion, concentrating on seizing victory with precision. Again, no and. Whether in large or small scale military science, there is no narrow focus of vision. As I have already written, by the finicky narrowness of focus, forget about bigger things and get confused, thus letting certain victory escape you. This principle demands careful reflection and thorough practice. This is what he's talking about being situationally aware, really.
Literally use the force, dipshit.
We'll see all without looking.
Yeah. Very cool. Alright. Footwork in other schools. There are various ways of quick stepping, such as those known as the floating step, the leaping step, the springing step, the stomping step, the crow step, and so on. From the point of view of my martial art, all of these seem deficient. The reason why it is like the floating step is that when steps are in any case likely to become unsteady in battle, so the proper course is to stride as surely as possible. The reason I do not like the leaping step is there's a sense of excitement in the leaping and the sense of fixation on leaping. Since there is no reason to leap over and over again, the leaping step is bad. Also, the springing step is ineffective because there is a sense of bounding. The stomping step is a passive stance and is especially objectionable. Other than these, there are also various quick steps such as the crow step. Since you may engage opponents in marshes or swamps, or in mountains and rivers, or on rocky plains, or on narrow roads, depending on the place, there are situations in which it is impossible to leap and spring or to quick step. In my martial art, there is no change in footwork. It is just like walking along a road as usual. Following the rhythm of the opponent, finding the right physical position in conditions of both hurry and calm. The stride should be orderly without slack or excess. In large-scale military science as well, footwork is critical. The reason for this is that if you attack indiscriminately without knowing the intentions of your adversary, you will miss the rhythm and find it hard to win. Also, if you are striding calmly and do not notice when opponents are demoralized and crumbling, you will let victory elude you, and will be unable to effect a quick settlement of the contest. It is essential to perceive discouragement and crumbling, then overwhelm adversaries by not letting them relax for even a moment. This requires thorough training and practice.
This one's a little bit more particular on what he dislikes.
Yeah, this one's like he just doesn't like he doesn't like dex builds, speed builds.
Yeah, because it just makes you want to do it.
Yeah, and I think it's just when he mentioned like all the different locations, I think he just doesn't like specialization.
He doesn't like the pure, like, he doesn't like the, he likes pure undiluted swordplay. He doesn't like all the fancy stuff.
Yeah, who said specialization is for insects?
I don't know, that sounds like something he is thinking now.
Yeah, because like specializations, a good man is well-rounded. Specialization is for insects. Someone said that something.
Yeah, I don't know, but that does sound like what he's basically saying here.
Oh, buddy, you get the oh wait, no, you're on speed or are you on esoteric?
I'm a speed, yeah.
Oh, I get the fun one then.
Esoteric,
And exoteric.
exoteric.
That,
is-
oh, buddy.
Alright. The use of speed in other schools. In martial arts, speed is not the true way. As far as speed is concerned, the question of fast or slow in anything derives from failure to harmonize with the rhythm. When you appear to master an art or science, your performance does not appear to be fast. For example, there are professional courier runners who travel a route of about 15 miles, but even so, they do not run fast from morning to night. As for those who lack the training, even if they seem to run all day, they do not reach the goal. In the art of the dance, if a poor singer accompanies the song of a skilled singer, there is no sense of lag, which results in haste. Also, when Old Pine is played on the drum, it is a quiet piece, but in this case too, someone who is unskilled will tend to fall behind or get ahead. And while High Dune sets a rapid tempo, it is wrong to perform it too fast. I don't know either of these songs.
I don't think these are real songs.
They're not probably known under these names. They're probably traditional Japanese songs.
Probably.
As the saying goes, the fast one stumbles and fails to get there on time. Of course, being too slow and too late is also bad. The tortoise and the hare both lose.
Yeah.
The performance of an expert seems relaxed, but does not leave any gaps. The acts of trained people do not seem rushed. The principle of the way can be known from these illustrations. Speed is particularly bad in the context of the science of martial arts. The reasons for this are as follows. Here too, depending on the place, say for example in a bog, it is impossible to move and run fast. With a longsword, there is no such thing as killing with greater speed, unlike with a fan or short sword. If you try to cut quickly, you will not be able to cut at all. This calls for careful discernment. In large-scale military science as well, the feeling of speed and hurry is bad. With the attitude of holding down the pillow, there is no being slow. Oh no, he's brought that back.
Yeah.
Furthermore, when people speed rashly, it is essential for you to be the reverse, being calm and quiet, not being drawn in by them. The way to work on this state of mind requires training and practice.
So,
it's like, don't rush.
keep your
It's like
rhythm.
it's slow either.
Literally just keep your rhythm.
Yeah, it's like the line in Starship Trooper, like, take another half second to do it right.
Yeah. Any opinions on the rhythm?
He sure likes rhythm.
Does like rhythm.
I mean, it makes sense, you know. Rushing is sort of a distraction,
Yeah.
and falling behind will leave you too vulnerable. And it goes very well if you're keeping your sword swinging at a moderate pace, not too fast or too slow, and remaining calm.
Yeah. I wonder if you could throw him off with like a drum beat in the background.
That is the different technique. That's the do anything to get a rise out of him technique.
Yeah. Alright. Alright, here we go. The fucking esoteric and exoteric. Let's see what he pulls up for this shit. In the context of matters of martial arts, what is to be called exoteric? What is to be called esoteric? Depending on the art, there are esoteric transmissions of the ultimate realization that are passed on as inner oral traditions. But when it comes to a principle of dueling with opponents, it is not a matter of fighting exoterically and killing esoterically. My way of teaching martial arts to have beginners learn and practice those techniques that are easily mastered, first teaching them the principles that they will readily understand. As for those things in their mind have a hard time reaching, I observe the understanding of each individual, subsequently teaching them deeper principles gradually, step by step. Even so, since I generally make them learn such things as to have actual relevance to addressing these matters, there is no such thing as a distinction between esoteric and exoteric. So it is in the world when you go into the depths of the mountains. If you want to go farther, you will again come out of the mountains. In any art or science, there is that for which secrecy or reserve is appropriate, and that which may well be spoken of openly. But when it comes to the principles of war, what is to be hidden and what is to be revealed? Accordingly, in transmitting my science, I do not care for written pledges or articles of penalties. Observing the intellectual power of students, teaching them a straight path, having them abandon the bad aspects of the 5 ways or 6 ways of martial arts, so they naturally enter into the real science of warriors, causing their minds to be free from doubt. This is the way I teach martial arts. Thorough training and practice are necessary.
You can't forget about that.
Yeah, but yeah, that one was not as funny as I thought it'd be.
I did like the one sentence. They're esoteric transmissions of the ultimate realization that are passed on as inner oral traditions.
I expected more of that kind of stuff.
That sounds like Assassin's Creed style. It's in your genes,
That's what I was hoping for, honestly.
but I don't think it means that. I think it just means that
Yeah,
the school passes the stuff on internally.
I guess that works. I'll have to settle for that.
Yeah, and then he doesn't mention. Does he mention exoteric again?
I don't think he does.
There's no such thing as a distinction between it.
Yeah, he just says there's no distinction and never mentions it again. Very cool.
Yeah.
Alright, wrap up the wind scroll.
All right. The last scroll's really short.
Yeah.
Epilogue. In the preceding 9 articles on the martial arts of other schools, where I have written their outlines of this wind scroll, although it is imperative to write clearly about each school, from the initiation to the inner lore, I do not make a point of writing the names of which particular secret of which particular school I am referring to. The reason for this is that the views of each school and the logic of each path are realized differently according to the individual person, depending on the mentality. So even in the same school, there are some slight differences of understanding. Thus, for the sake of posterity, I have not recorded the particular schools to which I refer. Having divided the general run of other schools into 9 categories, we look from the point of view of the right way for the world, from the point of view of straightforward human reasoning. He does this thing a lot where you think it's going to be another thing, it's just from or again. It's like doubling up.
Yeah.
Anyway, we look from the point of view of the right way for the world, from the point of view of straightforward human reason. Things such as preferences for the extra long or extra short sword, preferences for force or yielding, concern with prudence and fineness, are all biased paths. Even if I do not reveal them as the initiatory or inner lore of other schools, everybody should know about them. In my individual school, there is no such thing as a distinction between the initiatory and inner lore about the longsword. There is no such thing as the ultimate guard. It is only a matter of understanding its effective qualities in your heart and mind. This is what is essential to a martial art.
So yeah, just don't specialize.
Pretty much, yeah.
Don't min-max, I guess.
Yeah. One thing works and do the thing that works, I guess. It's just not with a longsword.
Yeah, hey, whatever works. Alright, do you want me to just finish the scroll of emptiness?
Yeah, one thing.
Alright, let's go then. In writing about the science of martial arts of the individual school of 2 swords in the scroll of emptiness, the meaning of emptiness is the realm of where nothing exists or cannot be known is seen as empty. Of course, emptiness does not exist. Knowing of non-existence while knowing of existence is emptiness. Wrongly viewed among people of this world, not understanding anything is itself considered emptiness. This is not real emptiness, it is all a delusion. In the context of this science, of martial arts as well, in carrying out the way as a warrior, not knowing why the laws of warriors is not emptiness. Being confused, one may call a state of helplessness emptiness, but this is not real emptiness. Warriors learn military science accurately and go on to practice the techniques of martial arts diligently. The way that is practiced by warriors is not obscure in the least. Without any confusion in mind, without slacking off at any time, polishing the mind and attention, sharpening the eye that observes and the eye that sees, one should know real emptiness as a state where there is no obscurity, and the clouds of confusion have cleared away. As long as they do not know the real way, whether in Buddhism or in worldly matters, everybody may think their path is sure and it's a good thing. But from the point of view of the straight way of mind, seen in juxtaposition with overall social standards, they turn away from the true way, by the personal biases in their minds and the individual warps in their vision. Knowing that mentality, taking straightforwardness as basic, taking the real mind as the way, practicing martial arts in the broadest sense, thinking correctly, clearly, and comprehensively, taking emptiness as the way, you see the way as emptiness. In emptiness there is good, but no evil. Wisdom exists, logic exists, and the way exists. Mind is empty. 12th of May, 1645.
So you really want to get so good at something, at sword fighting, that you kind of win by feeling no thoughts head empty.
Yeah, pretty much. It's all reflex.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah.
You want everything to just be muscle memory, really.
Pretty much.
A very short scroll, though.
Very short scroll.
Bro, imagine getting this as the DLC. That's all it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it'd be like 100% unlockable cutscene.
Yeah. Well, once you truly, I mean, it only makes sense to know this if you truly understand everything else, I guess.
Yeah, so get all the weapons and you'll get this scroll.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
Alright, that's it. Everything else is another section, another kind of book. And the translator's notes.
Literally a different
Yeah.
book.
Nice.
Alright,
And,
see it.
translator's notes.
Oh, fuck, do you want
those? We can skip
Canon? Let me just skip them real quick. Two skies, Canon, Kamishimi, 5 kinds of guard, infection, infection of a time, 5, 6, alright, yeah, so nothing interesting there.
Yeah.
Well, Kirder, want to recap or reflect on that shit?
I feel like I like to learn how to use a long sword.
Do you feel like you can take down 10 men?
Huh?
Do you feel like you can take down 10 men with a longsword?
Absolutely not. Only Miyamoto Musashi can do that.
Well, apparently this book was supposed to teach you how to do that, so.
He's keeping that secret to himself, clearly.
He also didn't put in the line where he said you have to fight like you're already dead, and I'm kind of disappointed.
Damn.
Because that line went so hard.
Damn. Yeah. I feel like it started the first book, the Earth Scroll, and some of the Water Scroll. Maybe just the Earth Scroll, actually, was somewhat metaphorical.
Yeah.
And then the Water Scroll was a bunch of particular techniques. And then the Fire Scroll was even more particular techniques.
Yeah.
It got a little bit more technical than I.
And then the
I
Wind
know.
Scroll was just fucking him throwing smoke at every other school.
Yeah, and then the Scroll of Emptiness just like get good.
I feel like the Scroll of Emptiness kind of held the most for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? Which scroll would you put on a wall?
I did like the Scroll of Emptiness. Yeah, I remember you.
Yeah.
Just because it was almost distinctly poetic.
It's poetic and it kind of just sums everything else up nicely.
Yeah.
Alright, well, that's that. I would raid someone, but no one's streaming that I can see, so.
Damn.
That's rough, gamers. If anyone wants to start a stream in the next 30 seconds, let me know. Otherwise, I'm gonna put this on the end screen. Unless, Gaius, you wanna show your channel for a bit? You wanna put your channel in my chat so it goes in the VOD? Because I kind of forgot to link you in the title. I'm sorry, bud. I'll try and put you in the title really quick. I hope that's right. Perfect. Oh wait, shit, not perfect. I forgot to put the word with. Perfect. Alright, that should show up in the VOD. If not, I'll rename it.
Alright, yeah.
Alright, and thanks for showing up, everyone. I'm gonna put us on the end screen now. So, see you. I'll see you for the Pokemon Direct chat. So that'll be on Tuesday morning. So see you then.
Alright.